Tension on deck.
Oh, that was fast. I didn't see that one coming. Hey, good afternoon, Ron. How's everybody? How you doing over there? What's the temperature over there? I got 85 here. All the old snowbirds, they all flew up north now. I don't know if you saw a flock of snowbirds coming up, but they're
Well,
all gone.
They came up the wrong week. It's cold and wet.
Oof.
Pretty cold and wet these weeks. So,
Right.
that's
crazy.
Yeah. So, glad you're enjoying it down there. It's
Yeah.
it's gonna change real soon.
Yeah,
Lot lot going on. Lot going on in the city. We'll talk about a whole bunch of stuff today. We have the Captain Harris, who responded to the Wyckoff Hospital incident with ICE, which we're going to talk about again later. And while he's interacting with the people on the street, he made some pretty wild comments and has since been transferred. So we're going to talk about that and whether he's got the freedom of speech to say what he wants, and whether the NYPD has the ability to transfer him, and he still faces further discipline, I think. So we'll talk about that. But what was your initial thoughts when that popped up on the screen?
Well, I mean, we've been taught all along not to say anything of such. You've been told to keep your political thoughts and your political preferences out of the limelight, especially when you're in uniform. So because you remember, when you're in uniform, you represent the department. That's the same reason why when you want to go and talk to the news or do anything else, the DCPI has to get involved and make sure that what you're going to say or who you're talking to is okay. So that my initial thought was, although I credited him for saying it, it was clearly to me something that he probably shouldn't have done. Right out there in the open in front of being filmed. So I don't know. Was it intentional to try to get transferred? Maybe he didn't like where he was.
Yeah,
So
he just got there, right? Yeah,
yeah.
he was just transferred there. I mean, I don't have all the commands he was at. We don't have access to that. But I did read that he had just recently been transferred there. And he was promoted to captain in 2001.
21.
He's got his 20 years coming July, so I think he'll make his pension. We'll talk about that. But in September of 21 is when he made captain. I don't know exactly where he worked prior as a captain, but the newspaper did say that he had just been transferred to the 9-4 recently, within the last couple of months. So, it says it was, Wilson was transferred on Monday to the department's communications division up in the Bronx. And I think when I looked at his 50A, he worked in the 120 at one point. So I don't know if he lives in Staten Island and he's getting, the shoestring transfer up to the Bronx, to the 911 call center up in the Bronx. Department policy prohibits officers from publicly expressing personal views about a political party while they are on duty. The spokesman added, his disciplinary process is ongoing, the spokesman said. So that transfer is not the end of it. We'll get into exactly what the patrol guide says, but is first time I'm seeing Sequoia Harris in the comments, and he's saying the patrol guide does say we have voice out political views, but the Constitution of the United States trumps the patrol guide. We've talked about this in the past when we talked about the freedom of speech, right? That you have the constitutional right to say whatever you want. However, your employer can limit the things that you say, in that if it brings a bad light upon the agency or company that you work for, they have the right to discipline you, to terminate you, or whatever the case may be. We've talked about that in the past with the people that have gone online with these disgusting, vitreous, rants, pro-Palestinian or pro-Israeli, whichever way they were speaking, and they were speaking out. And yeah, as long as you're not physically, threatening someone, you have that God-given right to say what you want. However, those rights are somewhat limited under your employment agreements. What's your take on what Sequoia Harris is saying?
Well, the policy set by the employer, and you're an employee. So, yeah, you could go out and say things and do things, but if you violate the policy within the department, you can be disciplined, you can be transferred or whatever they want to do. So you do have to uphold what they say. Yes, the Constitution says you can say that, and you can absolutely, but with the stuff that's within the department, the patrol guide procedures and everything else, they're going to say you can't do that. So you're mandated by if you want to hold your position within that department, and that you don't say what they don't want you to say. But if you do say it, yes, you have a total constitutional right to say that. But they have a policy and procedure that they could easily get rid of you or do whatever they want to you. So it's up to them to decide what the policy and procedure. When you join, and then when policies and procedures are changed, you're notified. So I don't think you really have any standing at all. So, I mean, if he was off duty, then I may say, oh, I agree with you a little bit there. But as soon as and people, when we used to do interviews, we always would preface it with, personally, this is not, although I work for the police department, does not represent the policies and procedures and the thoughts of the police department in itself. These are my own opinions. And that's when you're not in uniform, right? But I think once you're in uniform, that kind of, specifies that you're giving political opinion of the department. So I have a little bit of an issue with it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. New York City 26 says, I agree with his personal views, which a lot of people do. But we are a paramilitary organization, exactly, just like Rob said. While in uniform, we shouldn't diss the mayor the same way you will not hear a Marine badmouth the president. So, when you're in uniform, you're representing the police department, right? But when you're an executive, it becomes a little bit more. It's just more is expected of you. We hold executives to a higher standard all the time, right? We talk about the lack of leadership. We talk about, that's one of the main things that's been lacking with the NYPD and has caused a lot of the problems, is that there's a lack of leadership, a lack of role models and people to mentor the younger officers, the newer officers. And it's the same thing in the executive ranks, obviously. You have these executives that are coming up that aren't being shown the right way. When you're an executive, you're not only, you're representing the agency, but you're also representing the city. And when you're a duty captain, duty inspector, duty chief, whatever the case may be, you're making decisions, right, based on what's best for the city and limiting the liabilities of the city as well as the department. So you're an executive. You're a captain of police. You have to know better. And whether you agree or whether you disagree with what he said, you have to be held, and we hold them on the entire platform. And I know there's different views that are out there, and there's a lot of chatter on social media with opinions of whether it's he has the right to say it, he should say it. We'll give a little bit more, but let's listen to what exactly he said for anybody that hasn't heard it.
Mayor Zoran Mamdani.
You don't like Mamdani, but he's your boss. No. You want a minute? He's your boss. He's like temporary. He's your boss. No, I don't talk about. Is he your boss though? Is he your boss? He's your boss. He's your boss. Exactly. You don't want to. He's what? He's an embarrassment. Yo. Calling your mayor is an embarrassment.
Not my mayor.
You thought that was there, but
That's not right. Hillary, all Democrats say no, based of human rights.
Right? And that, I mean, that comment there is even, more egregious, right?
He's expendable. Temporary.
Right? He's temporary. He's expendable, right? He's nonsense. He's total nonsense. He's an embarrassment, total nonsense. And at the end, right here, went too far. To say all Democrats are a waste of human race. Again, you're not having a beer with your friend in your backyard. You're in uniform. You're at a protest. And this is what you're saying, knowing that you're being videotaped. Complete poor judgment, to say the very, very least. I mean, you got Reed saying the department was fast with the administrative transfer as no discipline was issued and accepted by the captain. This is just the mayor telling the PC what to do. How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, the department did act fast. I mean, could it be her protecting the mayor? It could go both ways, So, but I think that what it is it goes on social media. She gets notified. The mayor might see it. Yeah, there's definitely calls back and forth between each other. And what are we doing about this? And why is this captain actually saying these things out in the public in uniform and literally conversing with somebody on live social media? I mean, yeah, sure. It could definitely have pushback from the mayor or the PC. And I think probably everybody else that saw it was like, well, what did he just say? I kind of had to watch it twice because I'm like, wait, this guy's working. He's in uniform and he's saying this. Now, I'm not saying, I mean, I don't think every, Democrat's a waste of life. That's a far-fetched statement. Some of the other things he said about the mayor and stuff like that, absolutely. Would we say that, in uniform? No, I would never say that. And, some like Sid Rosenberg and a few others are calling this guy a hero. Maybe he's a hero in some people's eyes because he spoke his opinion and maybe gave out information that could be what most of the people in the police department think. Whether they're cops, all the way up to chiefs, they could all talk. Like we will talk about locker room, theories and locker room, chitter and chatter. So could it be? Yeah, probably is. Would I tell a cop to verbalize that on the street in a protest? No. Would I do that? I mean, I think it becomes very problematic, and it can have huge implications to anything that he's done, any type of CCRB he may have, or anything else. I mean, I just think it's not an appropriate thing to do. I think what you really want to do is maybe. The union should be presenting these things. You remember when Lou and Ramos were killed and, everybody went against de Blasio and we were at the funerals and a large section of police officers turned their backs when the mayor was actually talking. I can agree with that. I mean, literally they want to turn their back on the guy. They're not throwing any politics out there, not condemning anybody, but they're standing tall. I think that should have been done by the unions. I think this guy, maybe he could be a good union guy, but I think that's something the unions should, and not only just one union, it should be a coalition. Like there should be a vote of no confidence at this point, which has been done by the PBA before. So I think by solely standing out there alone, he puts his neck on, and I guess you have to give him credit for it. He puts his neck on the chopping block. So I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I don't know. I don't agree with him making these statements. Whatever his opinions and personal views are, we all have them, right? We're on a podcast. We're retired. We can say whatever the fuck we want, right? And oh, I got that in just after 15 minutes. I'm good. So we can say what we want because we're no longer a representation of the New York City Police Department, right? And like I said, we hold executives to task all the time on this show. We talk about lack of leadership and a problem with leadership that leads to trickle down problems because the boots on the ground aren't getting proper guidance and everything else. And you're supposed to lead by example, and that's what we talk about also, right? Not hiding behind your desk, getting out there, leading by example. You were out there in the field, I was out there in the field. We led by example. Eric, John, they're out there, they were out there, you know, and leading by example. And that's not an example that you could lead by. I'm sorry. You can't stand there and trash the mayor. And somebody said, Mamdani said he didn't do the transfer. He probably didn't. Tish has been very heavy-handed with discipline. We know that, right? There's not much of an investigation other than to find out that wasn't like an AI generated. Because at first, I swear, I thought that was possibly an AI generated video, right? Because I'm like, there's no way a uniformed captain of police is going to say something like that. But you see his body-worn camera is on too. So I'm sure they looked at his body-worn camera, confirmed that interaction did in fact happen, right? Which they can do remotely. They can do it right from one police plaza or wherever. Just pull it up if you have the access and watch the body-worn camera. I don't need to conduct a further investigation at that point. And remember, as executives, we work at the privilege of the police commissioner. Where we work, it's not like a cop, you know, where you really have to show cause to transfer them. Otherwise, you know, there's ramifications. We get transferred all the time as executives. We don't get asked. Sometimes you get asked, would you be interested in this or that, right? Or you're voluntold, you know? I was never asked. Well, I was asked. But I really didn't have a choice. And one time I was asked by Chief Mike Quinn, and I joked around with this about with Tony Raganella. I was asked if I would be interested in taking over the sort of control after the chief retired. And I had lived on Staten Island at the time. Executives didn't get cars, take-home cars, and that was up in the 4-4 in the Bronx. So I was like, Chief, is this something I can say no to? And he said yes. So I respectfully declined, right? But how often does that really happen? You find out sometimes from a phone call, hey, you're getting moved. Or a teletype comes down and you get transferred. Nobody even told you. And as an executive, you find out you're getting transferred. I've seen it happen time and time again. I was at a meeting one time in Queens North, and Chief Tommy Chan was the XO of the borough. And he was sitting in a meeting with us, and the wheel came in with a teletype. A chief got transferred from Brooklyn, from Queens North to Manhattan South, and he didn't even get a phone call. So as executives, we work at the discretion and the pleasure of the police commissioner. So to transfer him, and to even say it's an administrative transfer, which is punitive, right? It's a mark against you. It's an administrative transfer. I think that they had enough just from that video to basically, what they did was they took him from any public facing position by putting him in a communications division, because now he's not going to have contact with the public, because you have to fear, what is this guy going to say next?
No, I laugh because, you know, I don't know. I just think it's drummed through your head in every rank, right? As a sergeant, as a lieutenant, as a cop. You know, you first of all, you don't get hooked. So I don't know if he was hooked, right? Second of all, things, you don't say political things that are going to be against the city or, you know, any political views, right? That you're told don't do that. Okay. Everything's neutral because you're enforcing the law. The law in itself is supposed to be neutral. Okay. It's not supposed to be biased. It's supposed to be neutral. Anything that happens, you're supposed to enforce it. So then, like you said, it goes on the CPI, right? The Central Personnel Index. For the rest of his career, and I don't know how long that's going to be, it stays on there. So an administrative transfer, if you come and you want to apply to somewhere, they're going to be, the question is going to immediately arise, why were you transferred administratively? Because it's not a good transfer. Okay. I just, and then you just mentioned that he's taken out of the public view. I mean, to me, was this a suicide mission? You know, is this suicide by PC? I'm going to say this stuff. I know it's going to go, and I'm going to get transferred. You know, so I mean, listen, if you don't like where you are as a captain and above, and you do something like this, you know you're getting transferred. So I mean, you know, it's going.
How I would think that he lost his car as well. They moved him to the Bronx, and he lost his Category 1 car because the position in communications probably doesn't come with a car.
It could be.
Right? Executive officers of commands get cars. Commanding officers of commands get cars, and certain details get cars. I guarantee you a captain assigned to the communications division does not get a car. So now if he lives in Staten Island or Brooklyn, he's got to travel on his own dime every day up to the Bronx. Now again, July, whatever, 1st, he gets his 20 years. He can retire. He probably has enough time on the books. He's been a captain for 4 or 5 years, or for 5 years. So he's got enough time on the books, I'm sure, to run his time. And was that his plan, like you said? I'm going to say this, and I'm just done, because they're going to harpoon me, and I'm done. So Detective Nolan asks, if I was at the protest and still on the job, and somebody asked me that opinion of Mamdani, what would I say? I'd say I have no opinion. No, I have no comment. I have no comment. I would never. I wouldn't say I support him. I just wouldn't have a comment.
Yeah, I think that, I don't know if it was done on purpose. I do think he may have made a wrong decision, unless he was looking to retire, unless he was looking to get out. I mean, you think about it, if he has 5 years in rank, he's going to retire at deputy inspector's pay. You know, and I'm not saying if he stayed another 10, he would retire at deputy chief's pay. So I don't know if he necessarily wanted to do that. Maybe he was looking to get out, and this was his, his way to get transferred, and as an excuse to leave. You know, his last hurrah, and it very well could have been. You know, so as far as I'm concerned, he knew what he was doing. He knew that he knew there was going to be repercussions. He just didn't think, oh, I'm going to give my political opinion, and it was so. At the last statement, or relative to Democrats, you could not like certain Democrats, you could not like certain Republicans. I don't think you want to paint that broad band, that's often painted, and it becomes like almost you can't judge everybody just by one position or one thing they believe. You should have to judge people individually by their character and stuff, which is totally more important. So I don't know if that whole thing was staged to get out of there. Maybe he didn't want to do these demos anymore, because guess what? As the XO of communications in the Bronx, he's not going to be going on these details anymore. So maybe that was his game plan. That's why I just think it was something of a greater value to him to say this and get it out there. He was looking for the opportunity, and he got what he wants. So I mean, can you be administratively transferred anytime? Absolutely. The department could do that at any given time. They don't have to prove your innocence, prove your guilt. They could just say, listen, guess what? We're transferring you and you're going there. So, and will there be charges and specifications to come further? Yeah, there could be. So, I mean, I think one of the police spokespersons said that their discipline was, being worked up or whatever. So I just think that I give him, if he wanted to do that, I give him credit for it. But if any of us did it, to me, it's almost how they say when a perp points a gun at a police officer, whether it's imitation pistol or anything else, it's suicide by cop. So to me, this was suicide by PC. This was like, hey, let me throw this out there, and I know something's going to happen. And you know what? You're putting the police commissioner and the mayor's back against the wall. They have to do something, because what happens if they don't? Every person out there now in the police department says, Captain Wilson did it, so I can do it. I'm going to give you my political views now. So unfortunately, it had to be nipped in the butt, and they did. So,
Right here, like you said, his disciplinary process is ongoing, is the
right.
verbiage that they use, right? So the problem I see, and we're going to get into, I have the administrative guide I'm going to pull up, right? So September 3rd of 2021, he became a captain. So September 3rd of 2026, he's eligible for a deputy inspector's pension. He's probably got more than enough time to carry himself through September. However, if the job, like if he wants to go down and retire, he can. He can drop his papers, but he's got to give the job the 30 days. Now, first of all, if he wants to retire prior to any discipline, he'd have to vest out and not have his 20 years. Because July 10th is when he gets his 20 years in. So if the job wanted to really do him in, they could expedite the charges. They could force him to retire prior to September 3rd, thereby limiting and reducing his pension and not allowing him that deputy inspector's pension. And they could, as part of, and what people might think, well, he's got time on the books and everything else. Part of the penalty, and we've seen it in the past, right? That file for immediate service retirement, waiving all accrued time. So if he has time on the books, he'd have to waive that time. So, I mean, the job has options if they really want to go at him. I disagree with NYC 26, where he says he's become untouchable. Other than the transfer, the job can't do anything else to him because he has to claim that any other action is being done in retaliation for exercising his First Amendment right. Once again, we've talked about that. He has the First Amendment right to say whatever he wants. He cannot say it as a representative of the NYPD, which is implied when you are in uniform. And even if he said those things in his personal life, on his personal X account or his personal Facebook account or Instagram or whatever, he could still be held accountable because you are reminded in the prohibited conduct that your off-duty conduct is subject to discipline. So they could still have gone after him even if it was off-duty. Yes, he has the First Amendment right to say whatever he wants. However, the First Amendment gives you the right to say what you want, but it does not protect you from punitive actions if, in the eyes of your employer, it shines a bad light on them. And that's been proven in court. And that's why all these nurses and other people, teachers, have lost their jobs when they go on these silly Karen tirades online, thinking that it's all cool and okay, and I'm covered by the First Amendment, and I can get in front of my phone and I can make a post and I can say whatever I want. Yeah, you can say whatever you want. But, right? F around and find out. So here's where the job, and I'm falling behind on the chat. I'm already 20 minutes behind, but this is where they're going to get you, right? Sorry. The prohibited conduct, which they moved over to the administrative guide. I noticed they moved a lot of stuff from the patrol guide to the administrative guide. When we were on, a lot of the stuff was in the patrol guide. Even the duties and responsibilities and stuff is in the administrative guide now. But anyway, here's the catch-all. Engaging in conduct prejudicial to the good order, efficiency, or discipline of the department. That is a catch-all for the NYPD, where they get people, right? So they can very easily say that this was conduct prejudicial to the good order, efficiency, and discipline of the department by him making these public comments in uniform. But more specifically, in the same procedure, it says, while on duty, endorsing political candidates or publicly expressing personal views or opinions concerning the merits of any political party or candidate for public office. So even though the mayor is not a candidate for public office, he made disparaging remarks about a political party, the Democrats. So they have him dead to rights right here, right? So it's right here in the administrative guide, what used to be the patrol guide. So they have them dead to rights.
Yeah, I mean, you have to remember, right? So the police commissioner is a political appointment. Okay, it's based upon what the mayor wants and the policies that the mayor decides are going to be pushed forward. You know, his agenda or her agenda if the mayor was a female. And like Terry Manane says right there, it says the PC will make an example of him, and that's 100% because if she doesn't, I think it will fester into things that probably we don't want, because then there's a lot of political opinions. There's a lot of things that are going to happen that will kind of blanket over what the department thinks or should be thinking. So I think if you look at it from a perspective of you don't want people's personal opinions to be put out there, especially on a political mayor or the police commissioner, because what happens it you know, people can use that against you. Remember, we're in a mostly Democratic city, right? In you know, I mean, maybe Staten Island has a little bit of a you know, hold on it, but for the most part, it's a Democratic city, and you saw that with, you know, the elections and everything else. So when you make a blanket statement like that, it's kind of it's very it's not I guess we could say it's not politically correct statement to make, right? And to your point, you know, you say something that's a violation of a patrol guy, they have you dead to rights. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. You're not gonna. I really has no way you can even fight that and say that, you know, I didn't say that or I was joking or whatever. You know, it just doesn't hold any water. So there was no reason to I can't think of any reason why you would even want to say that, you know, because you can do the same thing with when there's a protest. You can say, well, I don't side with that group, I side with this group, and you're not supposed to do that either, right? We're supposed to be neutral. So as soon as he does that, as soon as he says that, he shows he's biased, and that's one thing that the department doesn't want you to do. They don't want you to be biased to any particular group, whether it's, you know, political, you know, ethnic, race, anything else, because it shows that you can't be fair and impartial. You're already slighted to show something to that particular side and show favoritism. Okay. So, I mean, it was the same, you know, go back to the same reason why, you know, years ago, you weren't allowed to take a cup of coffee from a coffee shop. But if you went into a bodega that didn't sell coffee and the guy said, hey, you want a cup of coffee? You could have a cup of coffee because you don't want to show favoritism. And this does. So, yeah, I mean, it's conduct prejudicial to the, you know, department, but it's, it's crazy. I don't know. I don't understand his reasoning behind it. So.
Right. Now, to your point, what a lot of people are talking about online is a comparison, right? And selective enforcement of rules. And like you just said, when you're at a protest, you must stay. And I talk about this all the time about politics, right? That I never wanted to talk politics on the show. We talked about it, right? And it's just an impossible task because politics has infected the police department so deeply that we have no choice but to talk about politics and the NYPD and politics within the NYPD. I mean, internal politics is one thing. I'm talking about, you know, elected politicians. And I never really wanted to talk about politics on the show, but we just have no choice. I always say, right, we're supposed to be apolitical as a police department. We're not supposed to choose sides. I talk about when I was a precinct commander in the 110 and I had a local politician that wanted me to retire and run for office. And I at that point, I had to tell him, you know, listen, Francisco, we are so far on the sides of the spectrum politically, but you wouldn't know it because while we're here and while I'm at work, we both have, and he did have the community's, you know, the community's best interests on the forefront, as I did as the precinct commander. But we never talked politics. because that wasn't my job. My job was to do the best job I could do for the men and women in the precinct and the people that we serve in the community. And he was doing the same thing. So we worked in partnership and lockstep with that. I couldn't be further apart from his political viewpoints, right? And it's the same thing when you go to these details. You have to be apolitical. You have to be neutral. You have to stand there and not pick and choose who you're going to give more leeway to. You have to give the protesters sight and sound of what they want to protest. You have to give the counter protesters sight and sound of what they're counter protesting. And as we've discussed on the show many times, as vile as the things that they're saying at these protests, it's our job, or your job as the NYPD, to protect them and protect that constitutional right to say those disgusting and vile things, no matter what we feel inside. But what a lot of people are saying online in this debate, in this conversation, is that that wasn't the case in 2020, right? In 2020, you have then Chief of Department Terry Monahan taking a knee and holding hands with the BLM protesters. You have several white shirts taking a knee, and just look at the disdain of the rank and file behind these people. And that the lieutenant in the forefront there with the yellow taser actually came out and went spoke to the media, apologized for his actions, said that it kept him up at night for doing it. He did it to try and bring the crowd down. He totally regretted it and said he had to live with it his whole life. He understood how wrong it was. But the only outrage, and I said this on an X post today, the only outrage you heard when these white shirts took the knee was from the actual rank and file, because we felt it was the beginning of the end. And you have spoken about this several times because you were present when they took the knee. So you want to touch on the hypocrisy, if you would, if you want to call it that, of why these white shirts and some officers that followed them were able to make a political statement, and there was no discipline then. And I don't think we can compare the two, to be honest. But there is something to be said that they were making a political statement while on duty.
Oh, they were most certainly were. I mean, I remember the day vividly because what we were told, there was somebody with a gun in Thompson Square Park, and we all had gone in there looking for them. And as we started walking through that park, the chief of department told us, "Forget it, let's get out of here." And he started walking out, and then we encompassed this whole group of protesters. And I remember him vividly saying, let's show them how it's done in New York. And I watched the chief of department and several other of his people from his office, I believe. I don't remember anybody from not being from his office, but they may have been, take a knee. And again, I looked at Chief Whedon and said, there's no way in God's green earth or in hell that I'm going to bend my knee to people that were throwing bottles and throwing everything else at us. And I'm not going to bend a knee to that. No way. But to your point, the chief, because he's the chief of department, and because the mayor encompasses that as, that's something that's good. That's he's trying to blend in with the protesters and everything else, which is total bullshit. Okay, he shouldn't have standing tall. He should not have done that. I think probably to this day he wishes he never did, because again, I had the highest respect for Terry Monahan. I thought he was a great man. I thought he was extremely knowledgeable. He can cross-name perps. Well, at ComStat, he would tell you, the perp number, is Bob, Jackson. Oh yeah, Bob Jackson. We know he committed a crime over in the Bronx. Why don't you talk to the command in the Bronx? So I mean, he knew exactly what he was doing as far as policing. When he stood there and and kneeled down that was a political move. And should he have, you know, felt the same repercussions? Yeah, I agree. I don't think that what Captain Wilson did and what Terry Monahan did really have any really difference. I think it's both the same, other than maybe Wilson verbalizing it a little better. But I think that hey, there's politics it was involved, and it should have been immediately addressed. And of course, it wasn't, right. So, and it's the same now. People are claiming, oh, the mayor Mamdani can say whatever he wants about the police department. He can do this. He can criticize that. Yeah, because he's not held to the same standards that was within the patrol guide and everything else, and the policies and procedures that are put forth by the police department. So, and he's not out there enforcing the law, right? So, I totally agree. I think there is a good comparison between the two, and I think it clearly shows, as Eric will often say, like the different tiers, and that when you're talking about a tier one guy doing something, it's okay. It's all right. We'll accept that, and it also falls within the political means of the mayor. Like somebody in the chat said earlier, if they had said something different and supported Mayor Mamdani and other things that he goes with, then it would have been fine. But in reality, that he shouldn't be saying that either. He should be apolitical and not doing anything of the sort. So yeah, there's definitely a double standard, and it's unfair, right? It's totally unfair because I just don't see them taking any action against the chief of department. They're not going to do that, right? So you saw things that other chief of departments that did things and how long it took them to do things against. So I mean, it's just the nature of the beast, but it's definitely not fair. So
Yeah, and again, we have to remain apolitical. We have to remain neutral. And Modern Samurai, we'll read these out at the end, as long as Rob reminds me. Not supposed to pick sides, and yet we're told to or forced to pick sides all the time. It's an absolute impossible standard to maintain and follow. Honestly, the job needs to pick a lane and stick to it. The lane is neutrality. The lane is that we're supposed to treat every single person the same. Like I said, we're supposed to, we have to protect the life and property of people that we completely oppose. And the example I gave earlier, and I stick to it because I think it's the most glaring, is when we have to stand there and we have to protect people that are out there making the most vile comments, because that's their constitutional right. As disgusting as it is, as disgusting of human beings we believe they may be, it's our job to stand there and protect them from any violence or any other, anything of the such. So
hey, when he says Mayor Mamdani, he's not my mayor. I mean, okay, I can agree with that statement, right? But you don't really want to verbalize it. But if you didn't vote for him, he's not my mayor. People say that about Trump all the time or whatever. I mean, in a technical position, he is, right. There's nothing you can do. But I didn't vote for him, so he's not my choice. When he calls all Democrats a waste of human life, I think I immediately think of John Fetterman, right? A Democrat. But a smart Democrat, a guy that's level-headed, and he doesn't take he aligns with the Democrats, but he takes everything that he hears and then thinks about it and makes a educated decision. So you can't just stereotype people because of their political views or anything else, because that putting that blanket statement on one particular political views or one political party is wrong, because that generally stands, and you wouldn't want anybody to do that to if you were a Republican or anything else, because there are Republican views that I don't agree with too. I mean, that's we talk about that all the time. So you can't really do that. And do I give the Captain Wilson credit for speaking out? I give him credit for speaking out, but I take away the credit, because I say I don't think it was he had to know that he was violating this. So that, to me, there has to be some other alternate
Yeah.
thing that he did, like something he was looking to do. So,
And
you know,
somebody
he doesn't have
said
the
it in
duty
chat.
anymore, right? Think about it. They're not going to give him the patrol duty anymore. So maybe maybe he didn't want that, you know?
That's a big
Yeah. Steady days off.
Mike Marino's calling in. I don't know if he's trying to call in.
You know, listen. How about this?
I'm gonna actually answer the phone.
Guy, you got
Mike,
weekends off.
Mike, you're live
no
on the air.
duty.
We're doing the podcast right now. You aware of that?
Oh, I was not. I was watching.
Oh no, we're live on the air. I actually put you on speakers. I thought you wanted to chime in on the topic. We're talking about we're talking about the captain. Yeah, we are. We're just actually wrapping it up.
Wait, I got a question from Mike Marino. Why isn't he watching?
Hold on, Mike. Mike, I'm going to put you on speaker. Rob wants to ask you a question. Hold on. This is for those who know this retired Chief Mike Marino.
Mike, why aren't you watching the podcast? I mean, that's the most important question right here.
He didn't know it was live. He said he is watching. He thought it was last night.
Oh, all right. So let me ask you, Mike, has he ever given his own political views in front of a camera?
You're out of your mind if you do that. He gets what he deserves. That was a stupid thing to do.
Repeat that, Mike. I didn't have you on speaker.
I said that he was out of his mind for doing that. I don't know what he was thinking, and he's going to get what's coming to him. It's against the rules. Period. End of story. But then again, when Jeff Mabry had the 7-3 and he had a sergeant in the office next to him with the shrine to Obama, and I told him to remove it, that was wrong too, because that's a political statement in a precinct, right?
Yes.
But what he listen. I don't. It's not your First Amendment. It's not a First Amendment right. Your employer has a right to, to particularly when you get federal money. Now you really have to listen to the federal rules and everything. Your employer has a right to limit what you say. I don't know why he did what he did, and then you guys started talking about the kneeling. I have to disagree with you on. That's just as bad. It's even worse. He demoralized all of his men. I never saw anything like that in my life. And I know you said, well, I think he's a good guy, Rob. You said, I don't. Whatever he did, then he discredited him. The chief of department, Monahan.
He's saying
Jack McCarthy, the kneelers.
He's saying that he doesn't think he's a good guy. That nullified anything that they've ever done. And no, Mike, I do agree. It was a political statement.
That was ass kissing at the height.
100%. And it was
the mayor will love me. I'll get it. I would rather lose a promotion. Not if I could lose promotions. I would rather lose a promotion than do that in front of your men that you demoralized all of them. You couldn't have done anything worse to them. We don't kneel. I'll kneel with the community when I went to church and a child got shot or something and I prayed with the family because I honestly felt horrible. Children shouldn't suffer. I'm not. When you do that, that's sympathy. When you do it because you're told that's called capitulation.
Yeah, we've said in the past, Mike, on both Rob and I have both said the same exact thing 2 times that we kneel: to propose to our wife and to pray to God.
That's it. You stand for that's right. You stand for the flag, you kneel for the cross. That's right. And I would kneel with the community. And again, when there was a tragedy, they suffered loss. I mean, you know, Ron, you were a precinct commander. You know a lot of those people. You relate to them. You work together to make things better, and you feel for them. You become friends sometimes with them.
Yeah.
And they lose a child, or they lose a wife, or a husband, or they suffer. Yes, you kneel with them. When you kneel because you're told, that was probably one of the worst things I've ever seen in my entire career. And for chief of department to do that, or any kind of chief, Chief Jack McCarthy did it. Terry Monahan did it. You guys have got to be shitting me.
Yeah,
they're a disgrace. They should have been booted immediately. What they did to their men, you can't make that up. The men just realized how full of shit all the bosses are. Nobody cares about them. Nobody really stands for anything. How do you expect you guys to ask after that? Those poor bastards.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was
get in the chat, Mike. Get in the chat.
Yeah, that was the really the beginning of what a lot of people consider the downfall of the NYPD.
Well, look, I know that it was political then. We were all working then. You know, I responded to the thing with Eric Garner. Poor Danny Pantaleo did absolutely nothing.
Right.
Nothing. Well, matter of fact, I spoke to Jimmy O'Neill. I don't know if he was chief of department then or chief of patrol, I forget which. And he said, and he agreed with me, did nothing wrong. What's his name? Miller. He wasn't the DCPI then. He was counterterrorism, but he showed up. He agreed with me too. He did nothing wrong. Textbook takedown, one high, one low. As soon as he was down, look over his neck, cuffed him. That guy died because he was a fat bastard. He had so many different. There was a doctor in California, a very famous doctor, who dealt with obesity. He said the minute that guy decided to resist, he set something in motion. He was going to die, and nobody could do anything about it because of his health and his weight and everything else. He ran through the whole list of it. And poor Danny Pantaleo got excoriated for it. Who, by the way, wasn't even supposed to be working that day. He was going to court on a collar. Oh, can somebody go out with Justin D'Amico was the other kid. Can somebody go out with Justin? You know, he needs somebody to go out. We just got this complaint. Oh, we were just yelled at in Comstock by the chief of department, Phil Banks, because of this guy selling Lucy's. Everybody's panicking. And Danny, being a good kid that he was, I'll go. He was a good cop, very active kid, very good kid, very respectful kid. Very nice parents. Father was a fireman, buddy, retired fireman. Three-quarters mother, very sweet woman. And they destroyed that kid for politics. And, you know, Derek Chauvin's in jail in Minnesota. Politics. Yeah, body cam shows he was never on his neck. He was on his shoulder, just like they were taught. Oh, yeah. The patrol guide or whatever they call it that wasn't allowed into court that clearly showed it. They had extreme restraint technique. There's a picture of it. Body cam shows he's on his shoulder blade, not on his neck. The judge, nobody allowed it because I guess they were afraid it was going to explode. So that poor man. Listen, you guys, we've all investigated these things, right? Look at Derek Chauvin and look at the cops around him. It was horrible to see the guy on the ground. You know he's dying, and that's a horrible thing to watch. But they're just looking around. Nobody's panicked. Nobody's mad. Nobody's like if I was killing a guy right now, but you jump, Mike, you jump. And I'm like, stop, you know, because everybody can look. They weren't. This was just another day in the neighborhood. They were trained to do this, and they did this all the time. Yeah. Their body. Oh, now I'm the angry white man again, thinking about the guys kneeling down. I saw that thing though with the captain, and as soon as I saw it, I said, "What a stupid." Yeah, that's just stupid. I said before, Mike. I said that my first reaction was, this has to be AI. You know that nobody could do. You know, a uniformed captain saying these things is insane. All right, listen, Mike. I appreciate you chiming in. I'm going to jump because we were just about to switch topics. All right, and before Ron, you said one thing very important, Ron. We're supposed to set examples for our guys. What you just showed your guys, you're going to get them in trouble because, he can do it. Whatever you do as a boss, they're going to amplify. He has an obligation also to restrain himself to show his cops this is how we act. Yep. And you're absolutely right, Ronnie. But Mike, the difference is, like I also said, I had people like you and Mike and Kevin Harrington and other people to teach me how to be an executive. Well, listen, and we got taught by Espo. Like you pass it down. We're all. You know, I laugh. Everybody keeps talking about training. I had 6 months of training in the academy in 1979. I never got trained again. Yeah. I don't know what they're talking about training. What fucking training? They only tell you what you can't do because that covers them. You sign the thing. You won't do this. They never tell you what you can do because then they'd be liable. It's on you. And if they decide, oh, well, we didn't tell you to do that. We didn't tell you not to, brother. And you're screwed. There's no training. Your training was the older guys telling you and your experience. If I hear that word, that extrajudicial punishment one more time, I'm gonna. I don't even know what the fuck that is. Oh, you're gonna get Detective Nolan rolling on me now in the comments. Well, I tell you what. I know that's a lawyer's term. Yeah. That's a lawyer's term. We know because we know that. I never heard that, and it's bullshit. You know what extrajudicial punishment would be? Once he's cuffed and in his cell, and I guess you can go and beat the hell out of him, which didn't work for me. I actually got beat up twice in one night that way. But that's it. You know, anything on the street is fair game. I'm sorry. And if those guys were trained properly, on how to do proper takedowns, and they took that guy down in 15 seconds and cuffed him and stood him up. And if they had radios to realize they had the
Oh,
wrong
yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
But it would be very professional.
Yeah.
And okay, we're sorry. You know, you should have complied. I don't know why the guy wouldn't comply if he was in. I said, what's that all about? Because they can? I mean, what is that? So that's horrible. Those poor guys. It did look silly. Went on too long. They looked unprofessional and, inefficient. But I don't blame them one bit for any of that. All right, it's a great show so far. I was calling to tell you it was a great show. I'm going to go back on now.
Thanks, brother. And maybe you just started a new call-in segment. I don't know. We'll see. But no, Rob's saying no. So jump in the comments. We'll see you. The show's we still got a couple hours to go, pal. The way this is going. All right, brother. Thanks again. I'll talk to you soon. And we'll have you on with us for a panel soon.
All right, Ryan. Be good.
All right, brother. Bye. Okay, that was interesting. And Detective Nolan, just if you said it a couple of times, I do read your comments. Any side conversations, I'm not putting up. I'm trying to keep the comments on topic. That's all. So you comment a lot. We appreciate your support. We appreciate your input and your engagement. But the off-topic stuff and some of the silly stuff, I'm not ignoring it. I read it, but so. What I was saying before Mike called, because it just caught me off guard that he called me, is somebody said in the comments that we have to monitor to watch when this captain drops his papers and retires. So as soon as he comes off the books, let's get him on the show. So I'm sure this show will reach out to him somehow through somebody. Somebody will say, hey, they were talking about you on the executive perspective. Maybe he's watching us now. I don't know. But just listen. We'd love to have you come on after you're off the books. So along the bottom, we're scrolling the executive perspective at gmail.com, or you can DM us at exec perspective on X. Reach out to us and we'll set up getting you on the show. And I see somebody saying he's a horror show. Listen, we welcome everybody on. So let's get back on track. Mike,
I would just love to talk to the captain for the reason of being is,
Why?
what was he thinking?
Yeah.
And why did he do it? Like, what was his motive? Because we can all speculate what he was doing and what his motive was. Because I don't think it just comes out of the blue. Like today, when somebody asks me a question, I'm going to throw this up there. So, I would just be very, very inquisitive as to what exactly his motive was and why he was doing it. Or maybe there wasn't any motive and it was just he just threw it out there and said stuff that he felt was going to end up getting him transferred or getting him in trouble. I don't know. Some people, like I said earlier, you can call him a hero and stuff, and I mean, do you want other guys to start doing that and speaking out their own political opinions? And I don't know. I think it just could eventually become disastrous when everybody starts spewing whatever rhetoric that they think. So, but again, I think there's unions should really step up and start saying things that where's the vote of no confidence? Where's the coalition between all the unions and saying, hey, we don't appreciate what the mayor says. We don't appreciate what the mayor's doing. Those are the things that I would prefer to see. And that's the union's job. That's what their job is to do. Because this poor guy, what is the union going to do for him right now? He's already been transferred. He's going to get some sort of discipline. The union can't do anything for him right now at this time. The union's hands are tied. Believe me, I've seen it before. So and like you said, conduct prejudicial to the good order of the department. That's the bullshit line that they put out there to cover anything that they want to, and you're gonna get whacked. So, but I like Mike. Mike went down like the last 4 podcasts. So
yeah. He gave us a recap of his opinion of all the last 4 shows. That's great. But no. Listen, he's always great. He's always well respected by us and others. And I've always said it from the beginning. And I just said it to him again. And it comes to my earlier point that you know, we talk about the senior cops leaving and the junior cops not having mentors and people to teach them how to do the job right. And it's the same thing with executives, right? Like I said, I came up on the job. I had no law enforcement, first generation law enforcement. You know, I came up through the ranks pretty quick. You know, I made captain with 10 years because I hit the test just right. So I was making mistakes. I was immature. And I had Mike Marino, Mike Harrington. I had, you know, his brother Kevin Harrington was my CO in PSA 2. I had Joe Campbell and other people that were mentoring me and saying, Ron, what are you doing? Stop the nonsense. That's not how we act. This is how executives act. This is how you dress when you go to an event. You don't show up in jeans and a polo shirt. You're an executive. You show up with a button down, and just taught how to be an executive. And I still listen. I still made mistakes. It took me a long time to get a filter, you know, and I said some stupid things plenty of times and did silly things and, you know, paid the price for certain things. But we all have these growing pains, right? But you don't see that today. And that's an unfortunate thing.
That's because they're all young and they don't know. There are no senior guys that are out there in the field that can even mentor them. When you talk about two-star chiefs that have almost only 20 years on the job, what experience do they have? Okay. I mean, that's the problem. When we were out there, we had these guys that you know, we would consider dinosaurs, and you would listen to them because they had the experience and the understanding and the leadership skills that already were established. So you understood that. Now, who's leading? Who's, you know, you have a two-star chief who's, you know, 22 years or 23 years on the job. And what is he going to tell a captain that just got promoted with 18 years on the job? Not much, not much. They're two birds of the same feather that flock together. So I'm sorry. There's
an awful lot of people in the comments that seem to know Captain Wilson. Some of them we haven't seen in the chat before. And so maybe they saw the you know, the preview of the show and they came on to hear, but not getting the love that you know, James Tillman got on the show this morning, where everybody was saying how great of a guy he is. There's not a lot of people here saying that he had a stellar career. But you know, again, like is Mike in the chat now?
Who's Killy?
No, I think he's saying hello to
Lily.
Lily.
Hey,
Yeah.
remember what does the acronym CFL mean?
Oh, Captain for Life.
That's what Wilson's there. He's got, if he didn't want that, he's got it now. So, but I mean, sometimes promotion doesn't mean a lot to people, which is okay, you know, especially with the capability of getting stuff, you know, 15 years in rank or whatever, you know, 5, 10, 15, whatever you want to do. So it doesn't necessarily mean that. And you can credit him for that. Maybe it didn't mean a lot. And I know of quite a few guys that, like, I don't really give a crap. I'll be a captain. It doesn't matter to me. And you know what? Truthfully, I took that position in ESU as a captain, not knowing I was ever going to get promoted. So I said, you know what? I'll be a CFL. I don't really give two shits either. I'm happy if I'm in a good position where I want to be. I'll play the game. I'll do whatever. I don't really care about promotions. It never meant a lot to me. But when you do something like that, you've definitely solidified the fact that you will now be a CFL. So, like I said, I don't know.
Well,
you know,
Adam F5201 is one of the people that's new to the podcast. Welcome. I hope you enjoy the podcast and you come back in the future. But he's been saying a few things in here. He said, trust me, the stuff he used to say at the precinct. So I'm kind of getting the feeling that this guy didn't have much of a filter and really may not have had an ulterior motive, like you said. He just not the sharpest tool in the shed. Had the ability to pass the promotional exam, but maybe his judgment is just not there, and he just speaks his mind and doesn't give a shit. And you can't have that. You can't have that attitude as an executive, as any member of the service in uniform out there with cameras in your face and everything else. And like Mike Marino said, you have to set the example for your troops, you know, and that's not it.
Yeah, no, I mean, you definitely have to set the example. I mean, you know, people look up to you. I mean, you're as an executive, right? Your idea is that you have to enforce. He wants to call it too. You have to enforce. You have to enforce the patrol guide procedures on people that that don't follow the rules and everything else. So you're a mentor. You're an enforcer. When you do something like that, you kind of you break the rule yourself. So of course there's going to be enforcement on you because you've broken the rules that you or yourself are an example of. So I mean, could it be something that he wanted to do? Could it be something that he felt that he needed to do? I don't know, but it's just, to me, it's just crazy. So
Well-
what we're gonna get rid of ask an executive and call into an executive now.
Yeah, we're gonna have people calling into the show now. We're gonna have people have said that. Hey, can we get a call-in number? I don't know how. We'll see how the volume sounds. Somebody said that
I think
Mike is-
I'm going to help Detective Nolan. I'm going to read out publicly your cell number so people can call you direct.
yeah, you do that. Everybody pretty much. Hey, listen, if he knows anybody that worked for me, they pretty much have my cell phone number. I was never, my number was always out. But all right, we're just over an hour in, and we got thrown a little curveball there, which was nice. This is something different, right? But where was he? He was at that incident at Wyckoff Hospital, and he responded to that. So I guess he responded. They called a mobilization. He responded over to that. And what happened over there was, let me try to take this down.
I just want to talk real quick. What do you think the discipline is going to be with Captain Wilson? Do you think that? I mean, in my opinion, he's going to get charges and he's going to be forced to retire. I think he's going to be given his 20. They're going to let him run his time to after his 20, but I think they're going to try to push him out. So that's what I think. I don't know. I think like TC saying, Wilson, maybe he will just retire. Maybe that's what he wants, but I'm thinking that they're going to force him. It's going to be like you said earlier, you're going to waive any of your time, past 20, and we'll give you the 20 and you got to get out. So, but I definitely think he's going to get charges and specs. So crazy.
No, I agree. I definitely think, and listen, they made no qualms about it. The administrative transcript and said that the discipline is ongoing, but they're definitely getting charges. What the outcome is? Are they going to force him to retire? I think they may, because you can't have saying things like that. It's just you're too high profile as an executive. It's for what it is. You're more of a spokesperson. It would be bad enough if it was a cop. And again, I don't want to minimize the position of police officer or sergeant or lieutenant, but once you're in the executive ranks, you're supposed to be held to that higher standard, right? And that's not a higher standard. And from what the comments are from several people in here is that, again, he didn't have much of a filter and, didn't make great choices for the betterment of the job. So I don't know that he did this intentionally. But hey, listen, I'll still bring him on and hear him out. We could always make it a short interview. But like you said, I'd love to hear what was going on in your head. Just like you said, what was going on in your head when you did that, and did you regret it before it hit the internet?
Yeah, well, I mean that's a good point because like TC says right there, he's talking about. It says, even as a cop, I wouldn't have said that. I said, why agitate the crowd? And not only why would you agitate the crowd, but why would you give in to the crowd? Like, that's what they want. Like, why would you want to give them, the fuel for the fire that's what they want? That whoever did that video was like, yeah, look what I got. I got this cop saying this. And, maybe they're going viral or whatever. Or they're getting 1,000 likes and stuff like that. So I just think it's, you're giving into them. I mean, listen, that could be his personal opinion, and okay, that's fine. But to verbalize it out there in public on the street in front of a video camera, I just think you're giving basically into that whole group and the whole crowd, and I just don't think they deserve it either. So, why risk your career? Why give into them? So I think he, I would love to hear his real reason, but
Yeah.
you know,
I mean, there's several people on here that are saying that not the kind of guy you want to work with. You know.
hey, at this point, he might even be willing to call in.
See what you did, Mike? You know? Yeah, Mike, I disagree. I don't think that he's going to keep his category 1. I think as just a captain with no designation in the communications division, it probably isn't a position that they could easily say doesn't warrant the call. You know, and I think that's going to be part of his punishment.
Well, as an XO, you don't get. Do you get a category 1 as an XO? He's not a CO.
Yeah, precinct XOs get category 1s. That's been going on for quite a few years. Obviously,
Yeah.
pretty much a couple of years after I was an XO, because
Oh, I
was
remember that. I
driving,
know. No, I remember now because I remember the lieutenants didn't want to take the test.
Right.
That's why. Yeah.
Exactly. It was a perk that was given because they were having a hard time getting anybody to take the captain's test. So
Yeah.
Tony Raganella, a friend of the show, has been on, has been on several times with us as a subject matter expert and as a guest co-host. He wants to call in too, saying great show, man. Thanks, Tony. We appreciate it. Appreciate you switching over to YouTube. Your first comment was on another platform. So, you know, we have over 250 people watching right now, quite a few on X. And what we always say is to, you see that we're very interactive with our chat. We even take phone calls from them. But we're very interactive with our chat. And, you know, you can only see what I put up unless you're in with YouTube. And then you can see all the comments that are being said as the podcast goes on. So we recommend that you go over to YouTube on the Finest Unfiltered channel and give us a quick follow. Hit the like, share, and subscribe. We're over 210,000 subscribers on the Finest Unfiltered network. That's all because of the support that we get from everybody out there. But shout out to Tony. Thanks for watching and chiming in, big guy. So yeah, so let's take a look at. Anything else on this before we go to
No. I just wish him luck, I guess, in the long run. He's going to need it. So
yeah. So let's
I do totally agree. There's a double standard. Okay,
Yes.
It's a double standard to police officers. It's a double standard for supervisors. It's a double standard for the chief of department. So I mean, really, if you want to hold everybody's some people's feet to the fire, you need to hold everybody's feet to the fire, and that's been a problem with the department for years. That they never did that. We talked about white shirt immunity. We talked about other things. So you know what? You need to freaking come together and hold everybody accountable. And for the same things, same discipline. That discipline matrix is bullshit. Okay, because that they wave that back and forth to whatever they want to do. So I think they need to freaking hold everybody. If you're gonna hold a standard, make a standard for everybody, and stop giving credit or stop giving favoritism to the upper echelons or whatever. So as Eric would say, the tier ones. I think that it still exists and it's still wrong. So that's how I'd like to end that one.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I agree that there is definitely a tiered discipline system. But I laugh because I never got disciplined until I was a white shirt, until I was a captain or above. And I never got any CDs or anything until afterwards. And then, IAB comes after you because of BS allegations. And then, they have to find something. So, there's two sides to it also.
When you want to really,
So let's take a look at the chaos that ensued. And Modern Samurai, we really appreciate your super stickers. We'll read them out all at the end again. So, but thank you very much for your super stickers. I think you got 4 going already today. We really appreciate that. But let's take a look at what happened and pivot over to that. Because I mean, all of our topics are kind of intertwined today. You know, we're going to talk about this, and it's going to lead into the legislation that's pending. But let's take a look at what happened over at Wyckoff Hospital when ICE had brought in one of their prisoners for medical treatment.
Posted on social media appears to show police throwing a person to the ground. Demonstrators tell Eyewitness News they were at the hospital trying to prevent ICE from deporting a migrant.
We don't want NYPD helping ICE in any way, shape, or form.
36 hours after the melee, anger is still simmering in Bushwick. This was a scene on Saturday night. Hundreds of neighbors and activists flooding the street outside the emergency room at Wyckoff Heights Medical Center after ICE agents brought an injured Nigerian migrant for treatment. NYPD officers struggled to control the demonstrators, who were determined to prevent the agents from leaving with the migrant in custody. They smashed windows in the agent's car and tossed trash into the street to block them from leaving. The migrant, identified as Chidozie Wilson Okeke, was finally lifted and dragged to a waiting car only after police cleared the way. This neighbor was among the protesters.
There is no way that ICE could have exited the hospital and taken that person without NYPD violently arresting protesters and rapid responders, without NYPD clearing the path.
A spokesperson for ICE claimed that Okeke had prior arrests for assault and drug possession and had overstayed his tourist visa, that he was brought to the ER for treatment after resisting arrest. The New York Immigration Coalition claims this video shows ICE agents pointing a taser at Okeke while behind the wheel of a car.
This was not a protest. This was a community coming to defend against our neighbors because we don't want ICE here in this community.
Critics believe the officers facilitated the deportation in violation of New York's Sanctuary City laws, which forbid police from cooperating in civil deportations. Mayor Mamdani disagrees.
NYPD officers were not dispatched to the hospital to participate or facilitate an ICE operation. Rather, they were responding to 911 calls regarding a protest outside of the hospital.
But the mayor said NYPD commanders are following up on this video, which shows one demonstrator being grabbed and aggressively thrown to the ground.
That is incredibly disturbing, and that is being actively investigated right now.
8 people were charged with resisting arrest and reckless endangerment. It all comes as activists claim that ICE operations here in Brooklyn are on the rise.
What's your take?
Well, you know, they talk about assisting ICE. You know, that's what the news reporter said, that that's not an assistance of ICE. When you technically look at it, right? So ICE is trying to get that individual out of the hospital after being treated, and there's a large group of protesting. The police department, NYPD, is protecting both sides at that point. Okay, they're not assisting ICE in anything. Okay, so basically what they're saying is, oh, we shouldn't assist ICE, and so the police department shouldn't have been there. So this large crowd could have got around, and you know, God knows what would have happened after that. So I don't think there's any assistance of ICE. I agree with Mamdani, like he says there was no assistance of ICE. I do have to disagree with him. You know, that the person thrown to the ground, I don't know the full story why that individual was thrown to the ground. I don't know what preceded that. So I would love to know, but I just think by him saying that, he was right. And then the news, you know, or the council person saying, oh, you know, no assistance with ICE. No, that's not assisting ICE, right? That's not like going in and helping somebody and, oh, this guy has, you know, turning somebody over to ICE that you've arrested or anything else. That's none of that. Or telling ICE, hey, that we just were inside and there's a bunch of people that we believe that are, you know, illegal immigrants, and you should go in there and check or whatever, because that's what they were talking about. Whatever the case may be, that's not assisting what they did. That's maintaining the peace, and we do that quite often. Oh,
Yeah, I mean, just there's so much to really unravel here, right? I made an X post earlier, like I said, because ABC News put out this article and said that ICE did a raid at the hospital. And that was total clickbait bullshit because they didn't do a raid at the hospital. They arrested this guy.
Yeah.
All right. They have a judicial warrant. They arrested this guy. And you have all these
violent
politicians and everybody else giving out this phone number and everything else. I'm going to bring it up in a minute. For these rapid response teams. They have their own rapid response teams to go out to protest and they're even saying it. Oh, this wasn't a protest. We were trying to stop ICE from removing one of our residents from the streets. So you're admitting that you're obstructing federal agents. You're breaking federal law, right? That we can't enforce it, but the feds can. And you're admitting that that's what you're doing, that your sole intent was to stop them. And you have people on video and you have people saying, oh, if it wasn't for the NYPD, they never would have been able to get him out of there. Well, you don't have the right to stop ICE agents from enforcing federal laws. They're federal law enforcement agents. They're enforcing federal law, whether you agree with laws or not. There are laws we don't agree with that we have to enforce because we're law enforcement officers, right? We don't get to pick and choose. Now, the DAs seem to pick and choose what they want to prosecute, but that's another story in itself, right? But we've talked about the sanctuary city laws in the past. And the sanctuary city laws say that we cannot assist them in rounding up, for lack of better terms, right? For rounding up these migrants or these illegal aliens or whatever you want to call them, right? And helping to conduct immigration operations because it's considered civil. So that's what we're not allowed to do. And we can't hold someone's immigration status against them when it comes to getting them medical attention or giving them police services if they're victims of crimes, right? We're not allowed to notify ICE if we have someone in custody that's flagged by ICE in the computer system. That's the sanctuary city laws. Whether we agree or we disagree, we have to abide by them. But when you have civil unrest, right? Civil disorder, it's the job of the NYPD to protect the life and property of all people. Again, it's all intertwined, right? Just like we were talking about before. No matter what we believe, it's our job to protect the lives and property of the citizens and the people. Because even if they're not citizens, right? We still have to protect the lives and property of that prisoner, right? Even though he is here illegally at the time and he's in the custody of the federal agents. It's still our job to protect his life and protect the lives of the ICE agents, as well as protect those who want to protest, right? But they didn't need no protection. But yet, like they said, they're not even protesting. Their only course of business was to try to stop ICE from removing this person that was in their custody. And they were blocking the roads with their persons. They were blocking the road with garbage pails and anything other crap that they were throwing in the street. And they broke out the windows of the ICE vehicle. And I believe they also gave one of them a flat because there was a piece of the video where the NYPD was parked behind them while they were changing the tire. Because they got away and they had a flat tire. So I'm sure either they ran something over that was thrown in the road or one of their tires was cut or whatever the case may be. You don't have those rights. You don't have the right to stop ICE. You have the right to protest. If you see ICE during an operation and you want to stand across the street, not interfere with them, and you want to scream and yell that you're opposed to what they're doing, that's your God-given right. That's your constitutional right. You don't have the right to interfere with federal law enforcement operations. You're breaking the law at that point.
Listen, I can remember making arrests years ago, and that was the policy was never to call, ICE or anybody else, immigration way back when. I remember coming down to Central Booking, they put the person's name in a logbook down there, but we never made the notification. So it's not anything new policy. That's been going on for years. And the fact that I agree with what Marlon had spoke about the other day on the podcast with John and Eric. Marlon mentioned that, first of all, they could have done ICE could have done a better job of protecting that individual, bringing back in the vehicle making it easier so that when you're bringing that individual, putting him into the what we would call an RMP, and taking them out of there. Instead that the vehicle was parked in a precarious position. People were able to get around it. And then they had to, encompass it and circle it and push people back. The other thing is, I don't know why ICE doesn't have their own, medical facilities. Clearly, it wasn't like a real medical emergency. It was just that, he made instances of he wanted to go to the hospital. So I don't understand why they had to do that. That they bring them to that hospital, bring them to one of their facilities or whatever, which would have alleviated that whole problem. So, and then I don't know how many ICE agents there were there, but it looked like there was only a couple, and maybe a couple came later. But this shit's going to hit the fan once you're, the notification goes out. People are going to show up, and I just think that they kind of also created some of their own problems. Now, when you talk about protecting the public. A protester, right, that was blocking ICE vehicles ends up getting shot and killed, right? So we went through that. We did a podcast on that. So, yeah, that's what they are doing. They are protecting, all right? The NYPD is protecting everybody, okay? Not just the protesters, not just the individual, not just the ICE officers. They're there to maintain the peace, and that's what they were doing, okay? And I think Mike Marino had mentioned that individual put his hands on the cop. You put your hands on a cop, you know what? You should get thrown down. And I hope for God's sakes that person was arrested. So I just think that a lot of things they did there were right. I think ICE could have done a better job, or should have their own facility, have their own place where they can take an individual. Not for obviously an emergency or a major medical emergency like a heart attack or a heavy bleeder or somebody shot or whatever. But if somebody's calling on the bullshit that says that I'm injured, that they should take them to their own facility. Here's the real. I can say that I need medical attention. I'll be taken right to a hospital, and then hopefully a crowd's going to show up. That notification is going to go out, and a crowd's going to show up and protest my arrest. And maybe, just maybe, if the crowd's big enough, I'll be able to escape and get away from it. So I just think it's there needs to be a policy and procedures need to be put in place and done a little better. So
yeah, no, I agree, and it just everything's getting twisted. Everything's getting twisted, and the rhetoric is just unbelievable. This whole incident. Now, people are asking in the chat how they even know. There's video of them making the arrest. So obviously there are people that are watching ICE, following them from their locations, from their buildings or whatever the case may be. And then they're making these phone calls into these rapid response groups to go out and to protest, right? And like Tony Raganella says, the first, your First Amendment right is to peaceably protest. That's not peaceably protesting. That's borderline rioting when you're doing what you're doing there. And it should be treated as such. And we're going to get into some more peaceable protests in a little bit, right? But Mike Marino makes a point here. The person that was thrown to the ground had his hands on a cop. And I saw that as well. So I'm going to add this up again. Now, right here, it's at the very beginning, right? This cop is walking up. And you see, he's the guy that gets thrown down to the street is actually off the sidewalk in front of the officer right now, where you can't even see him in this frame. And then when I move it forward a little bit, you'll see him step to the side of the cop right there, right? He's got his hands on the cop, right? See, his left hand is out on the cop. So the cop, like you said, we don't have the full video. Then the cop grabs him and he's taking him into custody. And how do you take him into custody? You bring him down to the ground and you put him in custody. Police work don't look pretty, right? Now, you might miss it if you're looking at it, right? But boom, he didn't just randomly grab this guy. He didn't just randomly grab this guy and throw him down to the ground. So let's look at, you want to comment on that or?
No, I was just, I got a spot on. You didn't announce it, but Robert Murphy too gave me a spot on at 1832 hours. So
I'm not even close. I'm at 1825.
Right. Crazy Seven gave somebody a spot on, but I'm not sure who. So
I'll take it. But let's look at what Mayor Mamdani had to say about the Wyckoff Hospital incident.
Almost, I want to be very clear that there was no prior coordination or planning between the NYPD and ICE ahead of this incident. NYPD officers were not dispatched to the hospital to participate or facilitate an ICE operation. Rather, they were responding to 911 calls regarding a protest outside of the hospital. And as I've made very clear, that our laws leave no room for interpretation about the fact that our NYPD will not participate in civil immigration enforcement. And I've also been very clear about my views on ICE raids as a whole. I think that they are cruel. I think that they are inhumane. I think that they do not serve any interest of public safety. Now, I've seen some of the videos from the incident. I saw a video that you referred to of an officer grabbing a New Yorker and throwing them onto the floor. That is incredibly disturbing, and that is being actively investigated right now.
There you go again. There you go again. The mayor of the city of New York not talking to the citizens of New York to say, you have the right to peaceably protest. You have the right to voice your opinion against the policies of the federal government and the ICE enforcement. Please do it peaceably. Don't attack the ICE officers. Don't attack the vehicles and break their windows. Don't take over the streets and block traffic. Don't block an ambulance bay where sick and injured people can't get medical care because you knuckleheads are out there blocking the ambulance bay. Don't throw things into the street that's going to block vehicular traffic and the path of an ambulance that can't get through. No, the mayor doesn't say that. What does the mayor do? He once again, like we spoke about in the past, Rob, he steps up and says how alarming it is. How concerning. What were his exact words? What were his exact words? It's incredibly disturbing. Once again, the only thing coming out of that man's mouth should be, I saw the video you're referencing. It's under investigation. Because once that cop's body-worn camera or other people's body-worn camera shows that this guy put his hands on the cop first, is it still incredibly disturbing, Mayor Mamdani? To him, it probably is. Because he's so anti-police and he keeps showing it time and time again. Why isn't he talking to the New Yorker? The New Yorkers that are putting their hands on ICE agents. Why is he talking to the New Yorker that put his hand on that police officer who took him into custody? Why isn't he talking to the New Yorkers that are throwing things into the street? Why is he talking to the New Yorkers that aren't allowing ambulances to get to a hospital, a very busy hospital, might I add?
yeah, I mean, he's always looking against the police officers, no matter what. And like we said earlier, did he know the full extent of what happened before that? No. What he sees is the officers grabbing the guy and throw him on the ground. Did he see or even look to bother what that guy did before? Did he put his hands on the cop? Did he the whole transaction before? No, he's only concerned about the individual getting thrown to the ground, and rightfully so, right? We've seen it, and how many time and time again, you have to, sometimes you have to take control of the scene, and by throwing somebody on the ground, that's necessary sometimes. So, I look to 92 Charlie's point, he said, the scene needed to be secured, force needed to be used. So again, the cops are waiting for the green light to do their job. That's 100% on target. And also, I kind of say, should Captain Wilson maybe have, instead of been given a interview on his own political views, maybe been doing some of that too as well? So I don't know, but yeah, that scene was chaotic, and then there need to be control. And I don't know, years ago, right? And I'm sure Tony Raganell will tell you, you set up a line or whatever. You need to hold the line. You can't have people throwing stuff, And you're right when you spoke about it earlier. God forbid somebody was having a heart attack, an ambulance was trying to get into that hospital. God forbid somebody was shot and was bleeding out and needed surgery. Then what happens? They can't get in, because of that. I mean, this is ridiculous. And the fact that they, where's the call for that? Where's the call that you're going to hurt other human beings? Where, that you're protesting and throwing crap in the middle of the street, and the poor cops have to get that out of the way as well. I mean, I could go on with the whole fact of where's SRG? Why aren't we calling in these mobilizations? Because that's what they're there for. That's what they were trained for, and everything else. Oh, because it gives the wrong look. SRG's here and it's bad. No, that's what you need. So I mean, it's a lot of politics, rhetoric, and eventually somebody's going to get hurt. So it's a bad way. But they need to take control of the
92
scene.
Charlie is saying you block the entrance to a hospital, it becomes a PD involved incident. Absolutely. And we like the mayor said, we responded to 911 calls, right? There was no supervision on the scene to take care of what was going on. Well, we have to say that that's not true because Captain Wilson was there.
Yeah.
And then Robert Murphy, Boston should have had a better plan to deal with the crowd. We do have plans to deal with the crowd. Like Rob just said, we're not allowed to utilize them because people are afraid of the mayor to call in SRG. You call the mobilization, right? I didn't see SRG there. I don't know where they were, but there was obviously mobilization there because I saw cops from the 7-5. I saw cops from other Brooklyn North commands. So mobilization was definitely called for that. Now, was a mobilization called? And I don't know. And if anybody's out there and you could tell me, are they calling mobilizations for crowd control and the such, and only asking for precinct personnel and not SRG? I could see that happening, Rob, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because the level 1 is just the localized task force. When you start talking about calling other assets in, it changes a little bit. I don't know. Maybe they're asking just for an 85, and not calling in for, because if you call an 85, you're going to get local precincts, in the area, especially on your division, right? So as I was in the 4-1, I called an 85. You definitely had cops from the 4-3 come in, the same as I would have went the other way to the 4-3 as well. So I saw that. That's it. So I mean, I don't know. I think maybe there's an internal discussion as let's not use SRG for anything, as to give the appearance that the riot police and these bad guys are going to come and hurt the peaceful protesters, which clearly was not peaceful and was causing a huge disturbance. Oh.
And the DHS put out a statement, right? We'll read the Staten guy. We'll read that super chat at the end, right? So last night, ICE conducted a targeted enforcement operation in Brooklyn that resulted in the arrest of, not going to try and say his name, a criminal illegal alien from Nigeria with previous arrests for assault and criminal drug possession. During his arrest, Okiki refused to comply with officers' lawful command to exit the vehicle and weaponized his vehicle to attempt to hit ICE officers. Okiki became physically combative, attempting to punch the officer and elbow ICE officers. Our officers followed their training and used the minimum amount of force necessary to make the arrest. There was a big complaint that when they were trying to take him out of the car, there's a video. Oh, the ICE officers were pointing a taser at him. Less than lethal force. You would complain if they were pointing a gun at him. Now we're threatening less than lethal force, and you're still complaining. Well, you're going to complain anyway because you just don't want them there. After his arrest, Okiki requested medical assistance. So ICE officers escorted him to Wyckoff Medical Center for a medical evaluation. Okiki remained non-compliant during the medical evaluation, throwing himself on the floor and screaming. The medical staff cleared him. During the medical evaluation, a significant crowd of anti-ICE agitators gathered at the hospital and became violent. The protesters damaged several ICE vehicles and assaulted ICE officers, resulting in minor injuries to the officers. Assaulting law enforcement is a felony and a crime. Officers from the New York Police Department responded to the scene and arrested several rioters. So that's basically telling you what happened, how it all happened, right? But then you have people like Councilmember Sandy Nurse, who puts out her tweet, right? Her ex-post. Last night, I went down to Wyckoff Hospital to observe our community responding to news that ICE was there. I was on site from 11 to 3 a.m. Here's what I saw. Word spread fast that ICE had brought someone they detained to the ER to be treated for injuries related to their kidnapping. This is a sitting New York City council member who is posting that this person was kidnapped by federal agents. It just blows my mind. New Yorkers showed up immediately. We did not have any information about the person ICE had detained, although we tried many times to get information. You don't have the right. You have no association with this person. You're not their legal counsel. You're not their relatives. You have no right. So you're admitting here you had no information as to why this person was in custody. The fact that ICE was involved is all that you care about. Doesn't matter what they have them for. Doesn't matter what their legal justification is. ICE is here. ICE is bad. ICE is kidnapping. I am a New York City council member, so what I say means something, right? Talk about leading by example. Talking about being a role model. Where is it in local government? It makes me throw up in my mouth. After roughly 5 hours, the detainee was discharged. Oh, they weren't a kidnapping, now they're a detainee. What I witnessed during the discharge appeared to be direct coordination between ICE and the NYPD. Yes, it was. With officers coordinating off the ambulance bay to allow ICE to move the individual into their vehicles and leave. Yes, they did. And why did they do that? Because people were borderline rioting. They were attacking the ICE vehicles. They were admittedly trying to stop ICE from leaving with their prisoner. Many people were arrested before, during, and after this process. Thank you to New Yorkers who dropped everything and showed up to demand ICE out of our neighborhood. As ICE's presence continued to increase in Bushwick and East New York, we are asking all New Yorkers to use this hotline for ICE sightings. Now, I blocked out the number because I'm not promoting it. You can text or call the number. This is a sitting New York City council member. You want to comment on that before I get to the senator?
Yeah, well, I don't know if I would have blocked the number. I would have liked everybody in the chat to call it up and spam the goddamn number. You know what? It's totally wrong. And maybe you should. Maybe you should look it up. But here's the thing. Why aren't we, and I think Martin Samurai mentioned it, why aren't we locking these people up for obstructing, right? Clearly, that's what they're doing. They're throwing stuff. They're doing a lot of stuff. They're mobilizing themselves. This is all an obstruction of justice. And you know what? I don't expect the NYPD to make those arrests, but the Fed should do it. Okay, and charge some sort of federal crime and put these people in a federal detention for a little while and have them wake up, and maybe they'll realize that it's not so important to go there on these these calls, these call outs, and mobilize so quickly that they have nothing, absolutely nothing better to do but to go down to a hospital and harass the ICE agents, the detainee slashed New Yorker, all of which suddenly they become a New Yorker when they're not even citizens, and to do all of this and cause problems and disdain and block an emergency room egress for people from real emergencies. I mean, this in itself demands prosecution, and that's the fault. That's, you have a number, you have information, start enforcing some laws, and that's been problematic with a lot of administrations, and I'm talking about federal administrations at this point. Let's go, cut to the chase, stop the bullshit, and do it, because they'll do it faster to any other party if somebody else was in charge and doing other things. They would have easily arrested somebody for some federal crime. So I think it's time to, start stepping up.
Hey, listen, I agree. Billy Blastoff is saying ICE has millions of dollars, have a doctor respond to the ICE facility and stop the shit.
That's what I said earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what, though? I think you have to go to a medical facility like this for transparency. So they're not saying that you're hiding injuries and you're hiding people that are hurt and everything else. It's just like you said, though. Listen, every one of those people that were interfering with a federal operation and moving of a federal prisoner should be charged under the U.S. code, right? And the feds should be, listen, every one of those people is going to be released on a desk appearance ticket, if not a C summons, that was taken into custody, right? And then the district attorney's not going to charge it. The district attorney is going to DP the case 1,000%, right? The feds should be taking them from our custody and charging them federally. That's what needs to start happening. Start charging these people federally under the U.S. code. Have the U.S. attorney start charging these people for the federal crimes, the crimes that we can't even charge them with. They can charge them with the U.S. code. We're charging them with disorderly conduct, with inciting to riot, with obstructing governmental administration, maybe criminal mischief, right? The DAs are not going to charge it, especially in Manhattan and the Bronx. It's not going to happen. In Brooklyn, maybe you might, depending on the egregiousness, but if it's just somebody that, got in somebody's face or refused to get out of the street, they're not getting prosecuted. They're not prosecutorial discretion, and it's going to get dropped. The feds, like you just said, Rob, I'm going to give you a spot on, right? The feds need to start making these collars. If we take them into custody, they should be standing there waiting to take them from our custody once they get released, and arresting them for these federal violations, right?
Yeah.
So it's not
until you do that, you're gonna have the same bullshit all the time. So,
right, there has to be consequences, right? This whole thing has been a snowball effect because there's no consequences to these people. There's none whatsoever. So you have this pundit, council member Nurse, but how about state senator, right? Julia Salazar, another one that loves the police, right? ICE appears to significantly increase with President Bushwick recently. If you see ICE, call or text the hands off New York City hotline. It's also concerning that this many NYPD officers were deployed for what was clearly a justified gathering by local residents. So you have a sitting New York State senator who is encouraging the public to respond, interfere with federal operations, and calling this a justified gathering by local residents. It was a justified gathering to block ER Bay. It was justified gathering to smash windows. I'm losing it.
No, when you look at it, you can lead into a riot, right? 10 or more. It's not peaceful. It's causing tumultuous activity, right? There, I don't know. There's things that can be charged, but the DA is not going to charge anything. So I don't know if that impedes the police officers, wanting to even get involved in the arrest or whatever, or maybe they're being told to stand down. I don't know, but like I said, it needs to be done federally. Enough of the bullshit. You're talking about federal officers there that are are really put in harm's way, and that individual. I mean, that individual's put in harm's way. And from what I understand, he was a freaking he was full of shit too. So he was but I just think it's going to lead to other problems because now everybody that they arrest is going to, oh, I want to go to the hospital. I want to go to the hospital. I want to go to the hospital. And it's gonna lead to a lot more problems because I don't think the hospitals can maintain that, and it's going to impede the emergency room. And I wouldn't be so far as to say that somebody inside the hospital even called, because how did they even know that that guy was going to the hospital? Was it internal? So
No, I'm telling you, because there's video of them making his collar, right?
that collar, I understand, but how did they know he's taking him to the hospital?
Because they're following them. Because they're
Yeah, well, they
following
should
him
be,
around.
and
They're
lock him
following
up for
around.
following him.
Yeah, I
So-
agree. That's what I'm saying. The Fed's got to do this for interfering with the federal operation. It's something we talked about, in the past podcast, that this is what they have to charge them with. It's just
100%.
it's just not stopping. And so, and again, they're getting right in these cops' faces, and they're not complying with the officers' directions and orders to stand back and everything else. So that leads us into our next conversation, right? Is look at what's going on. Right, yesterday there was a lot of peaceful protests in the city. Right? What did the I wrote it down. The NYPD spokesperson said that there were orderly and peaceful demonstrations, these anti-Israeli demonstrations in the city yesterday. Let's take a look and tell me, is this orderly and peaceful to you? Orderly and peaceful.
No police
Orderly and
lines,
peaceful.
no control. I mean, I saw that the barriers aren't even interlocked. I can remember when you lock those metal barriers, it is almost impossible to get them apart, even when you want to, right? You have to turn them in a specific way because the one hooked to the top, and you're able to lift it up finally. But if you didn't do it the right, I don't know how many times guys will go the wrong way and try to lift it, but those aren't even locked. So yeah, mostly peaceful. It reminds me of the old CNN scene where the house, I think, where was it, Portland, where the stuff's burning behind them and saying, "Oh, it's mostly peaceful." Well, this is not peaceful. Peaceful to who? Peaceful to who? Peaceful to the people that live that are walking on the streets. Peaceful to the people that are walking, the shopping. Peaceful to the store owners. No, there's no peace. I think in one of the videos, you'll see a car is right up against them. Okay, somebody's stuck right there. This is pure insanity, So peaceful, yeah, mostly peaceful.
Orderly and peaceful.
Oh,
Not
it's
just
even
peaceful.
orderly.
Orderly and peaceful.
Nice.
And then
Great
here,
job.
yeah, it just continues, and you have this
Where's-
this lovely gentleman
You're blocking the sidewalk.
No, I'm not. I'm not blocking the Listen, I'm a civil rights attorney. I'm a fucking civil rights attorney.
I don't care.
I'm here. I'm not blocking anybody. Don't fuck with me. I'm a civil rights attorney. I'm telling you, I do this shit all day. Hey, come on, you guys suck.
Here we go. We hit it. Let him Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Motherfucker! Fuck you! Stop! Fuck him! He's attacking that girl! He's attacking that girl! Alright! Clear the sidewalk! Clear the sidewalk, please! We gotta keep walking!
Orderly and peaceful. And it's okay to get in the cop's face and curse and scream in a cop's face. It's okay to push up against the cop that's trying to hold you back because you want to scream and yell at somebody else. It's okay. It's okay.
Listen, I think that what they, and I've said it before, what they need to do is they need to change the color of SRG's shirts to the powder blue. We'll assign them all to community affairs because I really feel sorry for these community affair guys. They are literally the front, they are the SRGs of 2026. You know, they're on the front line. They're the ones that have to deal with all this bullshit. And there's really no backup. So, I mean, I just think that if you don't have the professionals to be able to cover the crowds like that, you don't have the training, it's disastrous. Yeah, and it could be mostly peaceful. It could be orderly. It could be, you know, I'm a civil rights attorney, blah blah blah, whatever. It's just chaos, and it's only going to get worse, right? Because we got the summer coming up. So, how about how about that? When the summer comes up, and it's going to get even worse, right? So, I don't know.
Yeah. Stein guy. You know, they're slowly making anything cops do illegal. They're just hippie dictators. They don't care about safety. They care about getting their way all the time. They are hate groups that we allow. It just, you know, again, I'm behind in the chat, but you know.
Mike Marino asks, says, Rob, about time they had to earn those gold shields. Listen, yeah, all right. You know, you could say that they got their gold shields in community affairs and they didn't deserve it or whatever. But I mean, you got to blame the job then in itself for giving them gold shields. I mean, there's many units in the department that actually get gold shields that don't deserve it. I mean, there's been times where, you know, there's a lot of times where that gold shield has just been given out because of this guy was a good guy in the precinct, this guy was that, this guy's that. Okay, so I mean, I don't blame the cops themselves because they got the gold shield. I mean, they were put in a unit, and I blame the job. The job shouldn't be giving those gold shields out like it's candy on Halloween. All right, so you need to be in a position, and we've talked about that before, but you just can't say, they don't deserve it. I don't know those cops, and maybe they did deserve it. Maybe the stuff that they did in community affairs, they did deserve it, and whatever they did, or the bosses felt they did. That's not the problem. That the cop got it. The problem is that the job gave it to them. So I think that's the problem. So yeah, I know it's and Mike Marino gave you spot on times 2. I don't even know if you could do that. So, but whatever. To my point,
I got an extra one for answering the phone.
So my point is, don't blame the cops that got the gold shield. They didn't do anything wrong. Okay, they didn't, and additionally, they didn't ask to be put in this predicament either. So, they're thrown into it because we had a unit that fell under SOD, Special Operations Division. That I know, Chief Hughes was the CO of it originally. John Diadamo was the CO later on. That job, they deserve a spot on because that was the guys that you called in and you knew the job was getting done. So, so real quick, I just want to address 92 Charlie. Says, do ESU cops deserve the shield, or harbor captain deserve the shield. Here's the thing with ESU, and I've said it before, okay? The ESU, this was Kelly's way of giving ESU extra money, because what happens is the Special Operations Command in the fire department, SOC as they call it, got a 12 or 10% raise for being in SOC. So if you were in rescue, you were in hazmat, you would get that extra 10%. So it was proposed to Kelly, hey, what about the guys in ESU? They're specialized. They go another 8 months now. I think it's even 9 months of training, specialized. They do 7. Why can't those people in the Special Operations Division get equal pay that the guys in SOC get in FDNY? And his idea was, okay, let's promote them to detective specialists. So yeah, I do think they deserve it, and it's a fair thing for them. So I'm gonna have to go with that. 92 Charlie. A harbor captain deserve the shield. I don't know, but I can tell you that the ESU guys do.
Yeah, listen, like you said, though, these are people that are specially trained, specialized training. A lot of times they bring that specialized training with them. Not ESU, like you've talked about in the past, and we're going to get to, and during the Ask the Executive, a question that was posed to one of the other shows that they passed along to us about requirements for ESU. They are specialized. They are, they do a lot more than a regular patrol cop, and even aviation, harbor, I believe, these are specialized people, just like, investigators are specialized and they get detective shields. I am for people in specialized units getting a specialist shield. I think that's what it's for. I honestly think that's what it's for. Not for the cop in the precinct. I'm sorry. I agree on some sort of police officer special assignment that they started, and then the union, blew up, or some kind of corporal rank, or it's got to be a police officer special assignment, right? Because otherwise it's civil service. But as far as the, detective specialist shields, I believe they're specialists. So I'm going to say,
yeah. You talk about the harbor guys, right? So they're maintaining these big boats or whatever. Some of them have captain's licenses. You talk about the scuba guys who dive in water. They absolutely 100% deserve it. I mean, I've seen them dive. You diving out of a helicopter. You're diving in the murky waters. They literally on the bottom of the waterways. Looking for a gun. So they're literally like grabbing stuff. They're untethered for the most part, right? So the heavy currents. When you talk about Hell's Gate, where the by the Triborough Bridge, where the water turns and it's unbelievable current. So yeah, no, I'm sorry. I have to say that I 100% agree. Aviation, yeah, they've got their pilot's license. Some of the mechanics, and I've said this before. I used to walk into the aviation hangar, and there would be a helicopter would be totally disassembled, like nuts and bolts down to the bare minimum. And then you know what? After maintenance, they put that thing back together, and it's able to fly. So I'm sorry, I have to say they do specialized work. That's what the specialist shield is for. So, and if the job felt fit to give, listen, I'm not saying they don't deserve it. I don't know. But if the job felt that they had to give this specialist shield out to people that in community affairs and domestic violence or whatever, then we have to fault the job, not the person that got it, right? So
I agree. And we're not even touching on, their counterterrorism responsibilities. Every one of those units is working in conjunction with and part of their mandate and their duties and responsibility is counterterrorism. And obviously we're not going to give away tradecraft, of exactly what they're doing, but harbor, scuba, aviation, all plugged in to the counterterrorism, process, or whatever you want to call it, the fight against terrorism in this city.
Yeah.
So
listen, aviation, some of the aircraft is specifically designed for counterterrorism. But like you said, I'm not going to get into the weeds in it. But I mean, they're flying things that they normally wouldn't even fly. So I mean, let's be real. Oh.
Yeah. So let's look at another one, and then I'm going to break this one down just a little bit more before we get into the actual law we want to talk about. We're 2 hours into it. We have over 340 people watching on different platforms. Again, a lot of people on X. We invite you over into YouTube so you can get involved in our interactive chat. It's quite lively again today. I'm trying to keep up, but I'm trying to keep in and concentrate on the conversation and listen to Rob so I can respond intelligently, well, as intelligently as I can. But let's look at this next video from the same anti-Israel protest. I got to look at it again, Rob, because it blows me out. Orderly and peaceful.
There you go.
One step, move forward. One step, move forward. Police line, move back. Police line. Police line. Holding on people. Police line. There you go. Good job. Good job. Step back. Step back. Get off my neck. Step back. On the sidewalk. Sidewalk. All the hunters push it in. Right here. Push the barrier.
So it's just
it becomes a tug of war, right? That's what happens. And what I felt they should have done is whenever you have a crowd there, it's very, very difficult to push people back. Okay. What they should have done just to establish that police line, whether it was halfway in the middle of the street or whatever. What you need to do is you need to maintain a line by setting a line up. When you're trying to push people back onto a sidewalk, it's virtually impossible, right? And it's also dangerous, in my opinion, because somebody could fall and trip and get trampled. So I think what happens is, you need to set that line up. I also think that, where's the preparation for this event? Okay, who set this up? Because this was allowed to happen, whether or not the crowd expanded or whatever. But you also need to be able to think about how many people are going to be there at the demonstration, and then you need to have an area where, okay, a fallback area, and if the crowd starts to get bigger, an expansion for that area as well. So I just think it's completely piss poor planning, and that leads to that chaos and that nightmare, and puts every one of those cops in harm's way. And the last thing I'll say about this real quick is that you see them like right up against and fighting with these people with the barriers, right? There's guns there on the members of the service. God forbid this gets ugly. Somebody could easily reach over and do something. I mean, it's just they're giving themselves way too much, way too much danger by bringing themselves so closely. If you need double barriers, set up double barriers. So, but it's just really, really not done appropriately. And I just think that we go back to, poor planning again. We've seen it before where people are allowed to walk in the streets. We'll do all this. It's come on, And Matt O'Brien asked, is there any responsibility for, the picks of the poor planning? And you know what, there is, or accountability. Where is the accountability? Because we spoke about that before, right? It's the borough commanders. Ultimately, the accountability falls on them. And you could say the precinct or whatever, but that plan needs to be pushed up to the borough commander and then reviewed. If they're not reviewing these things properly, they need to be talking to people that have the expertise. So I just think it's something you know, yeah. And the other thing is, when you're trying to push back a crowd like that, your barriers aren't locked in. Unless you lock those barriers in prior, they serve no purpose. Okay, police line, yeah, okay, until it ain't no more. You know, so I think there's a lot of faults and a lot of problems with that.
Yeah. So let's look at right here.
I don't know if that's legal though. You can't. It's got to be two separate spot-ons. It can't be spot-on times two.
I'm not even keeping track. Modern Samurai keeps track. He even talks about it on the other shows. But let's watch right here. And you'll see the female sergeant. Now, I don't know if it was because she was up against, her back was up against the barrier and she was on the wrong side of the barrier and a crowd was pushing forward, or if it was, so if it was inconsequential or if it was intentional. But watch this officer, watch this sergeant. She gets a forearm up into her face. And you could see that she's got a good hold on the guy's arm. And then she just walks off. Right there. Right?
Yeah.
So there's a still shot. Right? Now, her back is up against the barrier. She's on the wrong side of the barrier. And this guy's, I don't know if he's getting pushed into her. So I don't want to say that, but just look at that. And look at the grip she's got on his arm. So she saw it coming.
Yeah.
And then no action.
No.
Oh, did I put that up before? Oh.
You can't work now times 4 now. Come on, Mike.
You know, but so the reason I'm even bringing that point up, and we'll talk about this, right? Because there's been talk, and now there's legislation pending about a buffer zone. Being questioned if that wasn't a woman's arm. No, it was absolutely that guy's arm. And you see the other guy kind of move him away also. So I'm not going to go back to it, though. There's a new proposal that would create safety buffer zones for police officers. And it's in the New York State Assembly and New York State Senate right now. And it's New York State Senator Jessica Scarletta from the 23rd District is the one that sponsored the bill, giving a 15-foot buffer zone for police officers for their safety. So I'm just going to run a quick CBS 2 news report on it, and then we'll talk about it a little bit.
More protections for first responders. Dozens from around the state were at City Hall today, calling on lawmakers to support a so-called safety buffer zone law. Now, they want 15 feet between them and the public to keep onlookers back. And as political reporter Marcia Kramer explains, lawbreakers could be arrested.
The snowball incident in Washington Square Park, 2 cops injured, the mayor dismissing it as just good fun, was the thing that snowballed into a move to create legislation to arrest people who get too close to cops and first responders doing their job.
That's where it all begins. If you have no respect for policing, throwing snowballs in their face, agitators every day making money off these agitators are out there every day, that's not helping matters here. That's disrespected police.
Detectives Union President Scott Monroe, one of dozens of members of the New York State Public Safety Alliance, who gather on the steps of City Hall to call on the governor and legislature to pass a bill creating a 15-foot safety buffer zone that they say will allow them to do their jobs. They also want repeal of an ordinance that allows members members of the public to get personal information about cops, including where they live.
We are not punching bags. We're here to protect, to serve, to risk our lives, not to risk our families' lives. But that's what's happening. We're being threatened. Our families are being threatened. Needs to end.
New York Civil Liberties Executive Director Donald Lieberman says, quote, at a moment when the federal government is targeting, arresting, and even killing ordinary citizens for protest, state lawmakers must stand up for New York values and defend the First Amendment, not jump on the bandwagon for a kinder, gentler version of the Trump administration's authoritarian campaign against dissent.
I could think about on both sides, The truth is probably in the middle somewhere.
I think it's unacceptable.
Why?
Because I feel like you should be able to have pictures with something. At least you need some photo evidence at one point. I don't know. I'm with the cops for everything.
I would agree with that, actually.
Marcia, from what you understand, what would this law actually do?
Well, here's the deal. You can be arrested and charged with a Class B if you refuse to leave the buffer zone or you intentionally interfere, threaten, or harass a first responder. Now, the punishment could be 3 months in jail or a $500 fine or both, and you get a criminal record.
How about the odds of this actually passing?
Well, it's hard to tell. It is an election year, and the governor and the members of the legislature are up for re-election, and there is this fact. The group and their families represent a block of 500,000 votes. Now, you should understand that New York would not be the first state to have this. There are 8 other states that either have it or are considering doing it.
All right, that's an interesting note there.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. The video popped off.
Oh, I was laughing at the super chats. Like, I got Mike Marino gave me a super chat and a spot on ×4, and Mon Samurai gave me a super chat with a spot on. So I mean,
All right,
I'm well over the top.
I'm a little behind. I'm not really worried about the super chats.
You got to throw the white flag up. I mean, that's all I'm asking right now.
All right. So right in there, all the civil libertarians are saying that, that are against this bill. Oh, no, police, you can't give police that safety zone and everything else. You have to have the ability to have transparency to allow the public to see what's going on. And that one woman says that, should be able to have pictures from 15 feet away. Anybody with the cheapest cell phone today could take crystal clear video of any incident. From 15 feet away, crystal clear, from the cheapest cell phones. So that to me is just a total non-answer to this.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the new cell phones. The cell phones have crazy cameras on them, and they're able to see real close and zoom in and everything else. And the problem I have is whether or not it's going to be enforced. You have the district attorneys that are going to say, "Oh, they don't want to enforce resisting as a top charge, and they don't want to enforce this, and they don't want to enforce that." So, are they gonna enforce that? No, probably not. Is it just a waste? I mean, could you? Well, I mean, does it help the cops? Yeah, you could bring somebody in custody. Is they going to actually give somebody a criminal record? No, they're probably going to decline to prosecute, and it's not even taken off their record. But yeah, I totally agree. Everybody wants a picture. Everybody wants to take cameras. They want to get the clicks. They want to get right up on the officers, which I totally feel is completely unsafe and terrible for the officers when somebody's screaming in their face. 100%. Do they need that law? They need it, but they also need, prosecutors for the most part with a lot of crimes, prosecutors that are going to enforce that law and put a little meat to it. But would it be a start to get that, passed? Absolutely. Do I think they actually deserve it? Yes. Our police officers definitely deserve it. You don't need somebody up in your face like that. Just personal space in itself. Arm's distance away, we were always told, right? In the academy, I was taught nobody gets within arm's distance of you, okay? You push them back. So I totally agree with it. I hope it passes. I hope they can do it. And I know people in the chat have been speaking about it. Florida has the Halo law which is actually 25 feet. So, I agree with it. And I hope it's passed for the protection of police officers. So, and it doesn't give the people the right to come right up on you just because you're a freaking police officer, because you did that to somebody else. You know what? You're getting a fist in your mouth. So
Yeah, well, just like you just said, right? We've seen it time and time again. Just over and over, just right up in the cop's face, and the cops have to stand there and take it. That's what we're up against nowadays. Just getting screamed at right in your personal space, and it just doesn't end.
How about blowing the whistle in your face? I'd love to punch that guy right in the throat. So that whistle, he swallows the whistle. So every time he talks, his voice whistles. I mean, come on, that's disrespectful too. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I agree.
So, the proposal, it's Senate Bill 9974. The link is in the show description. Safety bumpers on around on-duty police officers and other first responders would allow for police to arrest individuals who intentionally interfere, threaten, or harass with them within that zone, which is punishable by 3 months in jail and a $500 fine, right? So the key aspect is a buffer zone. So it creates 15 feet around the officer, firefighters, or medics, right? It would prevent interference from public interactions, aiming to stop protesters from coming too close. And it's a Class B misdemeanor. Now, having the law would be great, but will it do anything? Will it be prosecuted? Right?
It
There
will
was
be
a video.
prosecuted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a video out there of Arizona State Police Sergeant. And I don't know. I didn't look up, and I should have. If Arizona is one of these states that does have a halo type law, I don't know if you want to look that up real quick.
Where was Arizona?
Arizona, if they have some type of halo law, because you see this sergeant, and let's watch the video and let me know what you think. I already know because you sent me the video of what you think of the job he's done.
I'm not gonna disclose that information.
Let me give you some advice. When we're on a traffic stop, you are not legally allowed to walk up and interfere with our traffic stop. You can stand back and record as much as you want to. But if you interfere with a traffic stop again, I'm going to arrest you for interfering. Okay. You understand that? Don't ever interfere when one of my guys is on a traffic stop. Okay? My name is Sergeant Dave Ernst. I'm with the State Police Gang Task Force. All right? This is your last warning. If you ever walk up on one of my officers during a traffic stop, I will place you under arrest.
All right.
You good?
Yes.
All right. You're free to go.
Okay.
Did you want to talk to us?
Am I being detained? What?
You will never detain.
Okay.
Ever.
Is that person being detained?
It was none of your business. It's none of your business.
I think it is my business.
How is it your business?
Because I'm a human being and I...
You have no interest in that traffic stop whatsoever. It's none of your business.
There is a lot of racial profiling in this town?
Shut up with that crap.
Okay.
There's a lot of,
Hey,
there's a lot of
yourself,
idiots.
officer.
Yep.
Go, just go. You're good. You're good. Go ahead.
No, I can stand talking anytime I want to.
Go ahead. Ready to protect yourself.
Excuse me?
We have a live video going right now.
I'm talking about racial profiling. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Who's being racially profiled?
That individual. For
being in a gang?
For what?
Exactly. Just being brown.
For being brown.
Yes.
Exactly.
Wow, you are about as ignorant as I've ever met.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my goodness.
You're the one who's making these things happen,
Oh
sir.
my God.
Yes.
You guys, go do something else. Go have fun. Go do something. It's Friday night, man. Don't be such an idiot. Stupid people. Put that on the website for me.
All right. And just for clarity, the 4 times spot on is for the issue guys.
Oh, man, that ain't right, man. All right.
Spot on times 4 for the issue guys. I love
All
those
right,
guys.
Mike.
Always there for me. They
Mike,
deserve
you're
more
blocked.
than 4.
Mike's blocked from my phone now. That's it. I blocked him.
Oh, so yeah. So I mean, what do you think of that? I mean, I love the
I
guy.
want to work for that guy. That
Yep.
sergeant, that's the guy I want to work for, right? So Arizona's Halo law, often referring to HB 231 19, similar proposal aims to create a 25 buffer zone around first responders, police, firefighters. After verbal warning, it's a misdemeanor. So yes, they do have it. So, but that guy was spot on. That's the type of guy you want, right? If If Captain Wilson had done that and said to those guys, get back or whatever, I don't want you talking, leave my officers alone, they're doing a job or whatever. I mean, when I saw that video, I said, that's a guy. I hope someday that guy becomes a chief and leads his men and women as respectfully as he did. He gave his information. He wasn't afraid. He spoke the truth. He pushed them back. He blew off the bullshit rhetoric that they said about, targeting brown people. I mean, that guy did everything right, and I thought he was the best. So
yeah,
it's got my vote.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we're 2 hours and 25 minutes in. You want to show the HD video from the White House correspondence and touch on that real quick, just as a follow-up?
Yeah, if you want to, sure.
Yeah, let me bring that up. You guys can start beating me up again. Took me the week to get rid of my black eye. So last week we spoke on the White House Correspondents Association dinner, and we had a grainy video and then the AI generated video. And we talked about the possibility of a crossfire situation, which today Janine Pirro charged this individual with the actual assault on the federal agent. So I think they've confirmed that he fired that shotgun, and the federal agent was struck by the shotgun. So then they released an HD version of what happened, and it's quite alarming. What we see in the HD version tells you a lot. So we'll pop this up, and then we went over it really in depth last week. We'll just talk about it real briefly. I think there's really one main point that we see on it that wasn't touched upon because it wasn't clear in the other video. So let's take a quick look at this. So now, just to stop it, when we talked about the 3 uniforms against the wall that were standing there that wound up being in the crossfire situation when the shots started ringing out, they're obviously in this HD video identified as Homeland Security, unarmed Homeland Security officers who were assisting with the magnetometers. And you see the magnetometers being broken down. Top left, you see the canine officer. We're going to show a close-up of that in a minute. And here he comes. He lets a round go there. And then there's muzzle flash from the shotgun, muzzle flash ×3 from this guy. How nobody got hit is just amazing. So, I mean, just from the overview of the crystal clear video, thing that jumps out is, number one, obviously, the thought that one of those 3 on the other side, that guy that went down in the middle, he just tripped as he was trying to escape. Can't blame him. Shots being fired. They're not armed. I don't even think they have vests. But you see, it's a lot of complacency. That there was only one person that was really raised up and had their head on a swivel.
Yeah, I mean, like I said last week, and I still don't understand that, to break that down. Why are we breaking that down at that point? Because, and if you're gonna,
let me stop you there for a second, because I actually spoke to a friend of mine who is in the protective detail for someone very high in the Department of Defense. And he was not there. He was out of the country at the time with his dignitary. But he has worked that event with dignitary protection. And what he explained is the reason that they're getting broken down is once all the people are screened and inside the venue, and once the president is in the venue is locked off. Nobody else can go in. So if somebody showed up late, they're not getting through. So that's why they're breaking it down, because there's nobody else to screen. Everybody that's in is in. The venue is sealed. And he said even he isn't in the venue. Inside the venue is covered by the Secret Service. Every one of those principals has their own security detail. As you see them, eventually getting ushered out by their security details. He goes, he's outside the door while his protectee is inside the event, because inside that event is a secure perimeter of Secret Service only. So he explained that to me, that's why, because I questioned the same thing. Why don't they just wait? Why would they break it down? He says, because there's nobody else coming in. Once it's locked in, nobody else can enter.
right. And I'm not saying that anybody else is going to enter. The problem, what I'm saying is that you need to put some sort of barrier up to prevent that, okay? Because you're breaking down the magnetometers. Okay, you're not going to vet anybody else going in. And we saw that they really didn't vet anybody appropriately anyway. But there needs to be some sort of barrier or something to stop. Because once those magnetometers are down, there's really no choke point at all. And that's what I had mentioned quite a few times. Why not put some sort of barriers up? I mean, if you're going to, what I've done in the past is if something's in a secure zone, when you allow, I'll give you an example of like New Year's Eve, okay? We break down the magnetometers because nobody else can get into that. Let's say we start up on 43rd Street. Everybody comes in. We break those magnetometers down, but we don't break the barriers, right? There's still a line there that people can't cross. So that's where I have the problem is I don't care if they break down the magnetometers. They're not magnetometering anybody else, but they set up that perimeter, which originally was the magnetometer, is now gone. They needed to maintain some sort of perimeter, and you can't do it by just standing there. And that's the problem. I can understand taking down the magnetometer. Yeah, you don't need to check anybody that's going in, but you can't have people just coming in and walking and running through either. So because if they had set up some sort of barrier or closed the door, even in that doorway, if there was a door, close the door or put up some sort of barriers or some sort of partition, and then they could have stopped people from coming in. So I still think there was a failure right there.
No, 100%. And what's even, I think, is more of a failure and what needs to be really looked at during the hot wash, as you know, when you always speak about a hot wash after any incident, is this zoomed in portion. And we're looking at the shooter goes into this side room with the long arm under his clothing, right? And the dog alerts and follows him in. And then it looks like there's some conversation, and then the handler pulls the dog back. Now, if nobody's allowed to be there, if the venue is closed off, I think that he needs to be confronted much more forcefully at that point as to why you're here. And I think that was an absolute failure, because you see the handler just pull the dog back, and then instantaneously he comes running out, guns a-blazing. Nope, I got to remove this one first. Sorry, let me back this up. So there he goes, walking in. The dog alerts right on him. Now, I don't know what type of dog it is, if it's a bomb dog, if it's a gun dog, but he pulls the dog off. And he looks like he's having a conversation. He walks away and boom, instantaneous.
Is that the same guy that walked out?
Yes.
Can you play that from the beginning? I didn't see that where the guy that walked in.
There he is right there. Walks in with the gun under the jacket. Look at his right arm. He's holding the firearm against his person right there. Now, what do we know? Just as general law enforcement, right? Somebody's walking in there stiff arming, it's suspicious behavior. So he's got a long coat on and he's walking in. And then the dog follows him right in. And the guy pulls the dog back. Now, I don't know how the dog alerted. I don't know if it's what type of dog it is. You know how they alert by sitting or whatever, scratching at, whatever the case may be. But this dog handler is having a conversation, it looks like, and nobody else is alerted to this and raised up by this. And then as soon as he turns and walks, same guy comes running out immediately.
Well, I can tell you that the dog more than likely was a EDC dog, explosive detection canine, because that's the type of dog that Secret Service or they don't usually have patrol dogs there. In fact, I think in 2014 they actually went to this different types of dogs, a personal screening open area dogs, where it's just more friendly dog. They're not like our canines where they're actually dogs that can run after somebody and push them down and stuff. We don't know what the conversation was, but yeah, I guess the handler should have been queued up a little bit on him. If that dog was an EDC dog or even a vapor wake dog, where they actually smell the vapor trail or the thermal plume of somebody walking past them and determine whether or not they have explosives on them, then I could say, okay, the dog queued on them. Obviously, the dog was curious. I don't know what the conversation was. I don't know if why that guy was even allowed to walk through there and go into that. And that's another failure where I talk about, the perimeter and even the outer perimeter. How does that guy get in there? The fact that the dog, picked up on him, I don't know, was the dog might have been just checking to see if he had any explosives on him or any smell or whatever. That's what the dogs normally do. Again, like I said, he's not a patrol dog. After the guy ran, you saw that the dog didn't chase after him because that's not what they do. Those dogs don't, they don't attack and they don't try to take somebody down. So the handler, I don't know. I don't know exactly what happened, what transpired. I mean, are we always queued up on somebody, walking with their arm down? We should be, but I don't know, so yeah, I don't, but definitely not the dog's fault. I mean, maybe the handler should have been a little queued up. Maybe the handler should have stayed more there in the doorway and saw what this guy was doing. We would have been better too. But I personally believe that guy shouldn't even have been there. He shouldn't even gotten in that far. So, but can't blame the dog, man. Dogs are good.
No, I'm not. I'm blaming the handler. And like you said, even call over one of the other officers that are standing there. There's 4 of them standing there, doing nothing at that point.
No, and the poor TSA people. I know people were like bashing them on social media. I'm like, listen, when you go through a TSA in the airport, they're not armed. All right, okay, so. And they're not, and we've worked with them also, through the magnetometers because they're proficient with those magnetometers. They know, but they were blasting them people. Those people were running for their lives. They were getting shot at for the first time they probably ever. This is chaotic scene. I don't blame them for getting out of the way. And the one Secret Service agent that was directly across from the Secret Service agent that shot, he's lucky he's still walking, man. I mean. And the fact that none of those shots even hit the perpetrator. So, I don't know. Chaotic scene. Could have been better.
100%. 100%. And again, not to rehash all of last week, we pointed out the numerous failures. The numerous failures. I say it's not a 100% failure because he did not get to the event room. Failures upon failures,
Yes.
layers of failures, 100% agree with. He shouldn't have got that far, 100% agree with. The staircases should have been posted, 100% agree with. What happened with this canine, I don't know. It really didn't get a lot of traction. The whole story kind of, you know, I don't know what's going on with the whole story, but you know.
But also, the fact that he got that far in, that's problematic. The fact that he did a walkthrough the night before on video. Okay, I don't know why you go into a venue. You know, you can quickly scan the video of the facility and say if anybody was actually doing a dry run or looking. He's like literally pointing at the doors, you know, the means of egress. So again, I'll call it a successful failure. All right. The just like Apollo 13, right? They made it up and around the moon and back safely, but it was a failure. So that's what I called it. That's what I said from the beginning. It's a successful failure.
I don't disagree.
All right, I'm not saying
I got a
you
lot
do.
of pushback, but I didn't disagree. I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that statement at all.
All right.
You know, so all right. So we're caught up with that, and still trying to catch up on the chat a little bit. We've been talking about all this negativity and everything else, and for the last few weeks, we've been trying to get some good videos up of some great police work that's been put out. And I think this week, one of the most riveting videos was of of a group of officers that responded to a domestic dispute, and they were given the keys to the apartment to go in because there were family members in and the perpetrator was inside. And as they approached the door, there was an explosion. So let's take a look. For those who haven't seen that video, let's take a look.
Yo! You alright? The guy just lit the house on fire. We got an explosion. Who's left? 6 Sergeant. FD. You guys good? Come here, come here. Have some meat. Have some meat. Go.
I can't breathe.
Give me a kick.
Where's my baby?
You good? How many more people are in the house?
Phenomenal job.
Yeah, I mean, I would say extremely lucky that they were survived. You know, definitely a chaotic scene. When you talk about, you know, I know people in the chat are talking about it. You know, Hunters, NY1 talking about never stand at the door. You know, that's a solid statement. I mean, even though some of the blast came through the window, but
Right, yeah,
you know,
I was going to say that. Yep.
yeah, but you know, never stand in front of the door is known as the fatal funnel. It could be fatal for more than one reason, but you don't stand in front of the door because you knock the door, you ring the doorbell, and the next thing you know, there could be gunshots coming through the door. So, you know, that's a valid point. We also talk about within the fire department, things like gas and things like that are used like that, where vapors explode, right? You talk about an upper explosive limit and a lower explosive limit. So, usually in between is where you'll get the explosion. The low explosive limit, there's not enough oxygen, and then there's an explosive limit where it will explode, and then there's a upper explosive limit, means that it's too rich and there's not enough oxygen. So I guess at that point, whatever exploded, you found its ignition source. It was enough fuel, and it just exploded. I mean, thank God, they were safe. But yeah, terrible. But I mean, a phenomenal job. I mean, you give them credit, that they went there and were able to rescue those people in the house. You see about gas explosions all the time, right? Where natural gas or propane gas, very volatile, and blow a house completely apart. And often or not, there are survivors. Sometimes there aren't, but thank God all the officers were fine, and thank God they were able to rescue the individuals that were inside the house.
Yeah, they did, and that's the amazing thing, right? You don't know if there's a secondary blast. You don't know what's going to happen, right? And then they all pulled back a little bit after the initial explosion. I know from reading the article, one officer sustained stitches to his head. Somebody in the comments said a total of 9 officers went in line of duty that night. They all got blown back off the stoop and against that fence. So yeah, I mean, I think they're very fortunate. The timing of it, if they were inside when that thing went off, they might have had some more problems. We right, because there wasn't I mean, you know about it, but the concussion from the explosion would have been absorbed more by the body than being blown back and having the open space behind them to be thrown back instead of having to absorb it.
Right.
Yeah. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Because you're able to push back. If you were up against something, the crushing would have been a lot greater to the body, And I also reminds me of a tragic event when there was a battalion chief up in the Bronx, up in the 50. It's actually a marijuana grow house. He was a battalion chief, and the house exploded, and a piece of metal like embedded into the battalion chief, killing him instantly. Right at the scene. So I mean, it's just a tragic thing, and you have to be very careful. If you do ever suspect things like that, obviously you can call for the fire department, but emergency service also has gas meters and stuff that they can test and stuff. Same thing as if you feel there's like a lack of oxygen, they have carbon monoxide readings and stuff. So don't be afraid to call them as well. So they have the equipment that can test for things like that before you want to make an entry into something like that. But obviously they didn't know. I'm not blaming, those cops did a phenomenal job. They were up on the steps. They were trying to do what they were supposed to do. And, luckily, and thank God they're safe, and they sustained minor, or whatever, not deadly injuries, that's what I can say. So 100%.
Yeah. So let's do some more great police work. Here we have aviation assisting in several high-profile instances. I had to remove the audio from this because there was music, and a couple of weeks ago we got a copyright violation from YouTube, and the only music that I played was on an NYPD video. So this is them tracking the GLA. This guy's on a stolen moped. What's that bucket called?
The Bambi bucket.
Bambi bucket.
Yeah. The fire department hates us for that.
Do they?
Oh, well, because they want a helicopter for themselves all along, so that they could do that, and so since we've trained a lot of times with the Bambi bucket, they actually, pull up water from, to particular waterway and able to dump it. A lot of times it's used for brush fires, basically out in by Brooklyn, by Jamaica Bay and that area. So, but yeah, it's very good. So I always thought they should use the Bambi bucket on protesters. But
I think we have one more quick video. Let me pull it up because I didn't load it actually. Sorry.
yeah, some Sleepy Joe's asking, but some of those cameras are crazy money. They're able to track. They can actually foresee somebody going underneath a tunnel, and it'll actually then pick it up on the other side of the tunnel. Amazing equipment that they have on those airships.
Yeah. Here's another one. Some gun collars.
What's up, bro? Yo, stop, bro. Stop. Relax. No, not yet. Stop. Just lift up. Cup. I got the cups. Yeah? Yep. Good.
What I want to point out here is you had 3 guys that are in great shape. Caught this guy, brought him down. He's resisting, and they're able to get him handcuffed against the odds because of the diaphragm law. How they're able to control his legs, and the other guy is like side straddling him, but not putting any pressure on the diaphragm. It's almost an impossible task to do nowadays without violating the diaphragm law, and somehow these guys were able to do it.
Hold on. Stay there. Let go of it. In the pocket. Hang on. All right, I got it. Yo. City Boss 17-foot pursuit. Yo, stop! Tell you stop right now. Stop!
City Boss 17 Sergeant. Marking will be. Not for pursuit.
Let me see your hands. You're right here.
Marcy and Willoughby.
Central, I got him, Central. Yo, hold on, just cuff him up. Cuff him.
One in custody, no further.
Hey, bro, my mother right there. Relax. Put your hands behind your back. Turn them over. Wait. Cuffs first. Cuffs and then remove. All right. Get it? I got it.
Citywide CRT Sergeant Central.
Proceed, you said one in custody at this time, no further?
Affirmative, arrest location, 548 Willoughby, firearm recovered.
10-4.
Let's go.
I like the guy at the end. Let's go.
Yeah, that's it. Let's do it.
But I mean, good communication. Somebody's getting a tunnel vision for the gun, and somebody else is like, handcuff him first, cuff him first. Gain control of his hands and cuff him first. That was a good job.
Yeah.
So, 3 Modern Samurai.
Yeah. I remember, Chief Banana did a couple things with the helicopter. I think it was, he also made an arrest. He was one of the few guys that actually, landed a helicopter in a parking lot. I think he was a sergeant at the time in aviation, but he actually landed a helicopter in a parking lot and made an arrest for, I think it was a GLA or something. And he took a lot of, ribbon for that. But yeah, he was a good man, believe me.
Yeah, Terry saying great jobs. And then Terry reminded me, don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. We appreciate you, Terry, always. All right. So let's wrap it up. Let's move on to Ask an Executive, where Ron and Rob answer questions from the chat. It's not always available. People don't always have the availability of speaking to executives in the NYPD. Here you have a retired deputy chief and a retired inspector, and we'll answer any questions that you have that are on topic from tonight's topics or off topic. Also, if you want off air, because we know a lot of people can't ask questions because they're active duty, you can send us a DM on X at Exec Perspective. And you could also email us at theexecutiveperspective@gmail.com. And we will evaluate your questions. We'll answer your questions. If we feel they're appropriate, we'll bring them up on the next show. So we do have one question, Rob, from that Marlon sent us, Fire Detective. And it was sent in the comments section of one of the shorts that Marlon had put up. So I'll bring that up, and it says, what are the requirements for ESU? And that comes from Joey Boots, the Joey Boots. So I haven't seen the Joey Boots on our show. Marlon did invite him to come on the show, into the chat. So I know you've spoken about it in the past. So if Joey Boots is watching, or if maybe he'll watch the recorded episode later, Joey Boots, here is retired deputy chief and the executive officer of Special Operations Division. He's going to give you what the requirements are for the Emergency Services Unit.
Well, I would hope that Joey Boots looks up the old, probably like 4 or 5 shows that we've done, and I've explained it. This way we get a couple views and stuff. But perfectly honest with you, I mean, I'm 4 years out, so I don't know if anything's changed or ever. I actually did, after seeing that from Marlon, I actually did Google it, and the Google information is pretty good. It's really like right on the requirements, how long you're on the job, the physical requirements, the interview. So, I mean, all the information's there. So what I would say is, if you really, really want to go to ESU, do a little research and find out, man, at this point.
You say that, but you say that all the time, and we've talked about that when we talk about, what people can do to help their own careers when they want to move on, because it's not always, a lot of it has to do with having a phone call and somebody calling up on your behalf. Or as I say, that I've always gotten from Joe Fox, something that I've carried with me is, it's not always who it's who knows you, because you've made a name for yourself standing out in your duties day to day as an officer. But if you're interested in going somewhere, like you just said, do research. Do some research on the requirements. Talk to people in those units that have gone through the process. You don't need to talk to Chief Lukash, right? You're better off talking to an ESU cop in the street on a job. Hey, listen, what did you do to get on ESU? How did you go through the process? Especially if you see somebody, that's got a pretty clean uniform, because they're pretty new, right? Because those guys get dirty because they do the dirty work. But, talk to them. Talk to the detectives if you want to know how to get into the detective squad. Talk to somebody else in other units if you want to get in there. Do some research. And then also, like you have said all the time, go and do stuff, get self-certified in certain things, get specialized training on your own, so that you're bringing something to the table and you stand out against somebody else's application.
Yeah. I mean, that's an important point, right? When you talk about, it's not, who know, who and who knows you or whatever. I mean, make friends with a couple ESU guys. They have say. They already got an ESU. They may be able to talk to the boss for you. They may be able to they may be your hook, man. All right. We used to say sometimes the PAA in the police commissioner's office was the best hook. So it doesn't matter what rank you are, but find out. I mean, I think Sleepy Joe said it. I'm going to give Google spot on, because they really were. When I Googled it, I was like, holy crap. They definitely have, they had a lot of information. So, and if you really want it, I mean, I could tell you 1,000 times what to do, but if you really want it, you got to research it and do it, you know? So I think that's what it is.
Mike is here saying that the picture is not spot on. I think if Mike is here, I think if that person in the picture was a person of color, he would say it was spot on.
Oh my God.
Just thinking out loud. All right. Delray 53, always with a question at the end. Good man. Appreciate your support. Are current recruits joining the NYPD just to get their foot in the door to get to Nassau or Rockland County PD or anywhere in the country, actually? With all the MOS signing up for the sergeant's test, maybe they want to stick with the NYPD. I think that's like kind of a two-part question there. You know, why are people joining? And then are people taking the sergeant's test and, you know, do they want to stay? What do you think?
Well, I think that, and I can tell from personal experience, I believe getting on the NYPD is a little bit easier than getting to those other municipalities, whether it's Nassau, Rockland, or the state police. I think having your foot in the door in the NYPD gives you a little bit of edge if you want to go to those other locations. You know, some places I disdain for the way they treat the recruits or even the applicants, you know, especially, you know, in the upstate area. So I think maybe they are, but you know what? Once they're in, I think a lot of times the guys, you know, here's the thing, there's a lot in the NYPD to do. Okay. My son's in a smaller department. I think it's about 150. It's very hard to move. You know, here it's a little easier. The tests come up sooner. There's more options, whether you want to go detective route, narcotics, etc. So, you know, the bigger the department, the bigger the opportunities. So I think after a while, some people say, but yeah, I think all along people have been doing that. I knew two guys that I worked in the 4-1 precinct that from the day they were on, they were going to Nassau County, you know, so it depends on the person, you know?
Yeah. And a lot of people are taking the sergeant's test because they, you know, listen, first of all, we always say, right, the only reason to be a sergeant is to become a lieutenant. So you can't become a lieutenant unless you make sergeant. And also, the only way to force the city to give you a raise is to take a promotional exam, right? So there's a lot of different reasons why you want to, you know, take a promotional exam. We absolutely, I think I speak for Rob when I say we absolutely encourage people to move up the ranks and take that self-initiative. And, you know, you're absolutely, you know, way to help your own career, right? Is to take a promotional exam. QC Beast, prior to the podcast, did you, Ron, or Rob ever work together or encountered with each other? I think we've talked about this on the show in the past, right? We've never worked together. We knew each other through the job in passing. As executives, you know, you get to know each other from meetings and being on the scenes of things. But I think the most interaction we had was when you were in charge of, was that Task Force 1 when you went to Haiti for the earthquake? And I was the Queens North Task Force CO. And one of my cops was stuck in Haiti, in the mountains of Haiti. And he had one of those weird phones that if you had internet connection, it would call you from a 718 number, right? No matter where you were, you could take it with you. I don't know. I don't remember what they were. They were weird phones. I forget what it was. And he had one of those phones and he called me on my cell phone. Like I said, my guys have my number, right? So he called me on my cell phone and he told me he's there and they were sleeping outside because of the aftershocks and the buildings weren't secure and everything else, and kind of gave me his location. And I reached out to operations, who put me in touch with Rob, who was flying out to Haiti, and they started up the rescue mission to go and rescue my officer. Now he got down into Port-au-Prince before they were able to rescue him because they couldn't get. Just to show you how far we take care of our own, right? So the rescue teams couldn't get up from the Haiti side to where he was. So they were actually sending a team in from the DR from the other side. And then we were able to call them off because he got down into Port-au-Prince. And then through Rob, we got all the information from the State Department and everything else of who he had to contact and names he had to drop to get in and get out on a U.S. transport plane. And funny aside, I think I told the funny aside to this, right? His brother used all that information to get out like 2 days later.
Helped him
He had
out.
all those contact informations, and he got down there, and I guess they weren't screening very thoroughly because, it was a rescue mission. It was a devastating earthquake, and he got out and made his way to the United States. Go ahead, Rob. Sorry.
I was going to say, I think we used to run our paths used to cross a lot at the U.S. Open also. I used to see you all the time at the command posts and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to go and hang out up on before they closed it. I used to go and hang out with the ESU guys up on the counter assault teams up on the roof.
Yeah. It was a nice view up there.
Oh, it's beautiful. And you had a breeze.
Yeah.
Right? All right. What do we got? Modern Samurai. Have your CO and XO become the CO and XO of ESU?
Oh, he's talking about myself and Steve Bonanno, because Steve Bonanno was his CO and I was the XO in the 2-3. So
Mike is here. Mike, I was joking with you, Mike. Mike is here saying he's referring to the patch on the shoulder. AI does that. I guess for copyright reasons. Whenever you see an AI photo, the words get misspelled. Like I used ChatGPT for the thumbnail, and I can't have them overlay our executive perspective logo because it will misspell the words or use those, non-letter, characters in place of the words. So I have to then overlay it on a separate photo.
did it do the shield also? Did it change the shield?
It always changes the shield.
Yeah.
It always changes the shield. So it makes it look kind of like it. You have to really zoom in, to tell. But yeah, it changes the shield. Changes it all. Let's see. NYPD personnel department gives hard times guys the info outside departments. All right, so NYPD personnel department gives guys a hard time getting the info to outside departments. I don't know if that's the case today. I know that was the case where Kelly was losing so many cops after 9/11 because of retirements, especially because the guys made so much overtime that they had to leave. And then the Port Authority police was hiring a lot of NYPD cops. So what he did was he didn't allow personnel folders to be released, personnel files. And without them, the Port Authority police wouldn't hire NYPD cops. So a lot of people lost out on a great opportunity to go over there. What are you laughing at? I'm missing something?
My samurai again. So I used to see Rob all the time at the Puzzle Palace for his weekly spot-ons from the chief of SOD.
Do you see any more questions or anything?
No, I was just going through it now.
There's your. All right. All right. So I'm going to go through. I'm going to give Rob the final word. I'm going to go through the shows, the upcoming shows, but stick around. I have a special tribute video that I'm going to do just before the close. I'll speak about that after I talk about the shows. So before I do that, Rob, you have any final words on anything?
Before I go, do you want to do the super chats? Because we did get 12 of them, I think. So
we got 11. Well, we got 12 because we got the one guy that disappears once the show goes live. All right.
Oh, digest, yeah.
Yeah, the old diecast. Yeah, finest 25 now. Modern Samurai, man, you really dug deep for us today. We really appreciate your support. Good, then hold Tish to the same standard. A couple of months. Didn't she place a mezuzah outside her office door? Does that speak for the entire department? Eric says a tiered system of discipline. I'm not going to really agree with that one. I think, having a mezuzah outside your office is a religious accommodation. It's not an outward and overt statement, such as somebody saying something on video. Anything on that?
I hope that they wouldn't, if you put up a cross, they wouldn't complain about that either then, but
Agree with you
fair is
100%.
fair,
Agree with you 100%. Modern Samurai number 2. It's okay that these higher-ups blatantly lie to the public and perjure themselves with no ramifications. Seems like some bullshit justice, in my opinion. But what else is new with this department? So sad. I don't remember exactly where he was talking about with that one. Modern Samurai number 3, my friend. Not supposed to pick sides, and yet we're told to force. And we spoke about this one. We've forced and pick sides all the time. It's an absolute impossible standard to maintain and follow. Honestly, the job needs to pick a lane and stick to it. Like I said earlier, the lane is supposed to be neutral. Just that's the lane. We're not supposed to pick a lane in politics or protests.
Nope.
Modern Samurai number 4. Sounds like selective enforcement of the rules because, like Chief Marino said, tons of people in the Puzzle Palace made shrines of all kinds of things against department policy and nothing happened. No, we agree with you 100%. If you're going to make a shrine to a political figure, not a religious figure, because you have your religious freedoms, but a political figure, then yeah, that's a political statement that should not be in the NYPD workplace. I agree with you. Staten Guy 321. The city is too busy ensuring that the city isn't safe while letting spoiled rich kids pretend that they are gorillas. Make sure the anarchists are happy and the cops extra miserable. All part of the plan. Yeah. Yeah. It's not police. It's not a police-friendly city.
We need to cut the head off the snake. Who's funding all of this? Marlon speaks about it all the time. Get to the person that's funding this. So come on.
Modern Samurai 5. Nothing is getting twisted. Oh, when I said, all right, this is a criminal act by these rioters to obstruct law enforcement. Address this the appropriate way. Stop with the kit gloves bullshit. These actions are criminal acts. Spot on, Modern Samurai. You get a spot on. Staten Guy number 2. 999. They are slowly making another. No, I'm sorry. They are slowly making anything cops do illegal. Read this one out earlier before. They are just hippie dictators. They don't care about safety. They care about getting their way all the time. They are a hate group that we allow. And then Staten Guy, once again, number 3, trying to catch up to the Samurai. 499. Ironically, the mayor is incredibly biased. He tries to betray himself as a laid-back leader, but he is so obviously filled with hate. Sheltered boy. Yeah, I think that he is blatantly biased in many ways, and it's not right. And Modern Samurai, number 6, he is countless garbage cans forced to live on the streets in all kinds of weather with little to no legal protections. Then to be attacked in such a manner. Where's their dignity? Where's their support? Love you, Modern Samurai. Modern Samurai, number 7. A spot on for retired Chief Lukash. Well-deserved as always. There you go. And Mike Marino's got spot on, Rob, ×4. See, Rob, when you inadvertently or covertly solicit them, you get them.
I don't think so. I just enjoy them. I don't solicit them.
All right. So again, stick with us. We still have 340 people watching. It's starting to drop off, but I'm going to talk about the shows real quick, and then I have a special.
All right, I'll close mine out. I just want to thank everybody again for the chat. Obviously, the interaction is great. We love it. Love to be able to feed off the chat on the direction it's going. And thanks for all your input. Again, we always say be safe, watch your six, right? You always watch your back, watch your partner's back, and be careful. And as Ron demonstrated in the last 4 videos, guys are doing spectacular work out there under horrible conditions. But we support you, and we love you, and we thank you for everything that you guys are doing guys and girls are doing out there. So keep up the good work.
All right. Thank you. So Friday morning of the roundtable with John, Eric, and Marlon. They'll be talking about Captain Wilson, the Captain Wilson incident, as well as a lot of other things that are going on with the job. They'll be talking about these protests. They'll be talking about, I'm sure they'll be talking, they'll mention in conjunction with the protests, the issues with the mayor wanting to disband the SRG, and whatever else is topical. Go back and watch today's show. They had retired NYPD Detective James Tillman from the 7-3 squad on. It was a really good interview. And then they'll be back again on Monday. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. They're back to doing interviews on Wednesdays. So those interviews are always nice. The 10-4 Tavern will be there on Tuesday, 7:05 p.m. with Tommy Joyce and Pete Faselli. Always bringing great guests from around the country, different agencies, federal agencies. This week, they had retired Detective First Grade Tommy Burke from the auto crime division, who taught the auto crime school, was involved in a lot of high profile cases. So go back and watch that interview. That was a really good interview last night. And he didn't even he had so many more stories he wants to get back. So that's Tuesday. And then we'll be back next Wednesday at 5:05 p.m. for the next episode. Well, actually, I'll be back with an interview of retired Deputy Inspector Allison Esposito. Rob has family obligations, so he'll be taking the week off. So interviews are easy to do without having to do the prep, and we have the flow. So without the flow, it's just easier to do an interview. So we'll have that interview next week, and then Rob will be back the week after. So before we go, I don't know if you want to speak on it too, Rob, before I put the video up. We had a somber anniversary on Friday. It's the 1-year anniversary of the passing of Derek Dim, Eric Dim's son, after a lengthy and courageous battle with brain cancer. So we just want to let Eric, Louisa, and his daughter know that they remain in our thoughts and our prayers, and that Derek's memory stays with us. So,
yeah, I mean, it's a tough day when Eric actually did the podcast, and I spoke to him, and it actually helped him. I mean, we love Derek, and we thank him for what he's taught us. The strength, but it also exemplifies the strength of that family, right? Eric, his wife, his daughter. I mean, the unbelievable strength that they were able to exhibit to us is amazing. And Eric, your family, you're always in our hearts. Derek, we love you. We know you're listening, and we appreciate, even though you're a small time on earth, the great things that you did. And what I've always said, that little Derek united a country. So I mean, he did an amazing thing. So to this day, that the video, it's hard for me to watch, but the strength that Eric exhibits, unbelievable. And Derek Strong. That's a great word. It's a great thing. So all my heart and love to all of you.
Unfortunately, again, because of YouTube, I had to remove the audio from this, the music from this tribute video. But go to our X. We posted this video with the music, which really is it's actually a lot more impactful with the music, I believe. But so I'm gonna play the video now. So until next week, everybody, thank you. Be safe.
Sir, you have the right to remain silent. Do you understand?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
You have the right to an attorney. You have the right to question here, now, or in the future. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Hi, Derek. Mommy's going to ask you 3 questions. You ready?
Okay, yes.
What are the 3 primary colors?
The 3 primary colors, red, yellow, and blue.
There you go. Adjust your eye. Look, this between this.
1, 2, 3, sure.
Go.
Okay. Yay, good job.
Are you willing to answer any questions? Where were you last night? Where were you?
No, on the rest.
You're under arrest, sir.
Where were you last night?
Where were you last
Tell
night?
him, Eric.
Where were
Derek.
you? Where were you? Where was the slide? Where'd you put it?
I didn't put it.
And did you clean your room, sir?
No, I didn't.
You didn't clean your room.
No.
Oh, well.
You get on your knees. Oh, you're so cute.
Do it again. Do it again. Do it again.
One more time, one more time. Perfect. Go. 1, 2, 3, and...
Hold on. So, back up.
Say.
Show me how I told you before. Back up. Mess you up. Do it.
Back up.
Yeah.
Ah, tough guy. What 2 primary colors do you mix to make orange?
Red and yellow.
And what is your favorite secondary color?
My favorite secondary color is purple and green.
You're under arrest, sir. Now you're going to jail. Say goodbye.
Say, no, I'm not guilty.
Are you guilty or not guilty?
No.
How do you plead?
Say, not guilty.
How do you plead? Guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
Okay, what colors do you need to make purple?
Red and blue.
And what colors do you need to make green?
Blue and yellow.
Good job.
Okay, bye guys.